Of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday with me, DJ_Liza Diva,
DJ Cold,
and me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa. Hatija ai, mani especially ukisonga.
We shine light on one of the most under-discussed and very urgent issues, especially in women's health. This is maternal mortality. Why are women still dying from preventable causes during pregnancy and childbirth?
The solutions that we create for women must start with the women themselves. It is the wearer of the shoe who knows where it pinches most.
one of the key causes of maternal mortality is obstetric hemorrhage, bleeding.
And I think the leadership of this country needs to wake up and really focus on what is killing women. And they can only do that by listening.
If only would put in money, if only would invest strengthening our supply chain, would ensure that our governance is airtight, then this country will not be able to speak about maternal mortality very quickly in the near future.
Want to enjoy free-to-air digital TV with crystal clear quality? Here's how to get started with Signet. Step 1. If you have a smart TV, you're good to go. Next, connect the aerial to your TV. Now, do an auto search on your TV. Just follow the prompts on the screen. And that's it. You're now tuned in to Signet. Sit back and enjoy a wide range of free-to-air digital channels. For technical inquiries, call the Signet hotline on 0770 572 656.
The Aberdare and Mount Kenya forest were once the theatre of war for Kenya's liberation. Deep within these thickets, a determined generation waged a bloody struggle against colonial rule. But for the few surviving veterans, the echoes of gunfire have been replaced by what they describe as the silence of neglect. At 105 years, Mzee Muriuki Waigwa is a living testament of the country's struggle. He fought alongside legends like Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi, survived capture, and endured several brutal years in British detention camps. In that fight, it was announced that the forest don't belong to them. It was taken away from them. When that was said, people start speaking among themselves. How have they taken the land from us? There was a man called Wayaki who was a prophet and had prophesied that there will be white people who will come, and he continued to talk about it to the people so that they could be aware. People started refusing everything, leading to their detainment. Waigwa's fate was sealed by a black card in a colonial screening process, a label for radicals. He was jailed and forced to dig trenches to block his fellow fighters. Today, he is wholly dependent on his family and a government stipend for the elderly. I am asking we be given back our things. We be paid because of our forest and being given back the ownership. His stories mirrors that of Mzee Cyrus Anyota. His role in the struggle for independence was spiritual, his oath of secrecy binding. He was arrested in Nairobi, labeled black, and detained for years in Langata and on Mageta Highland. We were always sent by God. that you are not allowed to eat something that belongs to someone else, and you should eat something that belongs to you, because the colonizers tortured us for 3 years, and I didn't know if I'll ever go back home or not. While their story remains untold, historians have challenged county governments to step in and honor those heroes. And so, as the nation celebrates these founding fathers, watch from the sidelines. They hold no titles or wealth, only the quiet conviction that their sacrifice was necessary. Their greatest and perhaps only reward remains a free Kenya. Kenya was named Kenya Colony in 1920 because it was a colony that was previously colonized.
Well, good morning. Those are the Shujas who were honored yesterday at the Mashujaa Day celebration. 184 were conferred in various categories, especially the people who struggle for the liberation of this country, philanthropy, sports, entrepreneurship, and more of their outstanding contribution to the nation during that particular feat, of course, spearheaded by President William Ruto. Also, another Shujaa who has recently been laid to rest, that is the former Premier Raila Amolo Odinga. And remember that today is the last day of the mourning period that was proclaimed by President William Ruto. Today is day 7 of the mourning since we received that tragic news that the ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga is no more. He was laid to rest at his Bondo in Siaya County home. And of course, many leaders are still trekking in and visiting Opoda Farm, especially the Odingas who are still in and around that particular vicinity to continue with their mourning period. Also, we'll be keeping tabs on various other stories currently making headlines at this hour. Any moment from now, we'll be taking you to State House Nairobi, where President William Ruto will be hosting the President of Senegal, that is Bassirou Diomaye, who is yesterday attending the Mashujaa Day celebration. Also, we're keeping a very close eye on Parliament, given that the Labour Parliamentary Committee will be vetting a Salary and Remuneration Commission member. Also, a briefing by a presidential hopeful, that is David Maraga, who will be having a briefing at exactly 12 noon. Those are some of the stories we're keeping an eye on at this hour. Good morning. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Caroline Njoroge. And we want to carry on with the conversation, especially with the ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga, I should say the former premier. We'll continue with that particular discussion because today is day 7 out of 7 since President William Ruto proclaimed, and the decision that was made by the ODM fraternity, especially the leadership. Of course, we have seen various commentaries, especially from the leaders who are hailing from that particular party and other leaders who are not within the ODM party. Joining me this morning is none other than Millie Luanga, a lawyer and a governance expert. Millie, thank you so much. I know you have been with us since last week, but thank you for making time for us today as well.
It's an honor to be here, and thank you for having me.
And Trostat Alenga, a policy advisor, will also be joining us in a few. But Millie, let's start from the burial point of view. During that particular day, the speeches were made. Every leader, especially from the ODM party, were calling for unity, unity, unity. What are they foreseeing? Disunity in the coming days or what?
Yes, you know, you cannot pretend that there has been disquiet in ODM, even before the passing on of the Right Honorable Amolo Odinga. We know that with the party moving into the broad-based arrangement with the current government, there was some disquiet amongst some of the membership, particularly as depicted by the senior membership. We know that some have been speaking to the fact that we are not in government, we are not this, we didn't sign for this and that, you know, while others have been saying that we are family in an arrangement. In fact, the disquiet or uncertainty depicted by the membership was so evident that it forced the late Prime Minister, may his soul rest in peace, to speak to it at the latest parliamentary group meeting which they had and which was covered live thanks to the media, at least we were able to see what transpired there. And he did say that there was a position for now, and that there will be a position come 2027, that there would be no lacuna. The party still subsists. I think he did even remind people then that they have party structures that would speak to it, and that people, the lone voices speaking out there are just that, but lone voices, because the party structures will speak to it. One thing that we must commend ODM for is the fact that normally they have the party spokesman through the Secretary General. We also know that they have party structures. They have the National Executive Council, the Governing Council. They have different organs, including dispute resolution organs that speak to certain issues as and when needed. So it will be good to see these organs speak to these issues, because then we know that there's been some process internally to address these concerns. So from my part, much as like many Kenyans out there, I think we just wanted to mourn Tinga and hear things, beautiful, funny stories about him, touching stories about him. I think I completely understood why the ODM brigade that were appointed or chosen to speak at the funeral did actually bring a pinch of politics in. Because if there's no indication to the membership that there is some direction and there's clarity, and that there are people who are steering the ship, the party could be at risk. And that is something that we sincerely hope will be avoided, because we are a multi-party democracy.
Yes.
We need strong parties.
And indeed, Millie, some of the leaders who spoke during that particular state funeral that was happening in Bondo, Siaya County, most of them, they were saying the major legacy, aside from what Raila Amolo Odinga has achieved for the country, the biggest legacy he has left behind is ODM. And that's why they were calling for that particular unity issue. But in terms of the the leaders were throwing at each other, especially once they were standing up, especially from the SG, who clearly stated that he will not be the person who will start the downfall of the ODM party, despite provocation, even directly to his face. In terms of what should be done between these leaders, what can bring them together at the end of the day to ensure that that party it's not disintegrated, as Raila would have not hoped for it?
Well, it's definitely a tricky situation. One of the things I'm sure many of us will remember Raila for was that he was good at bringing people together. He was good at brokering a kind of middle ground that would satisfy both parties, even when they were taking very firm stands against or on certain issues or certain topics. But we also must remember that Raila was also very good at throwing a surprise. If there was going to be an inevitable change and somebody's continued presence in a certain position was not going to be sustainable, he would pull a very fast one by bringing a surprise alternative, or if not a surprise alternative, he would bring somebody that was expected, that would not shake the support base. You know, Kenya is very ethnic, for example. So if he was moving somebody from a position, he would bring someone of the same ethnic community, or someone very vibrant, or someone else with who brings or appears to bring a lot to the table, and replace that person if it became inevitable that this person was going to leave the party. Because we have seen some of these luminaries who have at one time or another been in ODM, including the current president, and they moved out. We will remember, for example, the vibrant Ababu Namwamba when he moved out, and I think they brought in Zani, and we can, for those of us who looked at the documents of the political party, you can see the work that Zani as SG, together with Mbadi then as the chairman of the party, did to put structures and systems within the party. So I'm sure that there should be some way of trying to appease these persons, and where it is inevitable, because a party can only be in wrangles for so long. After some time, people get wary and they will move to the next alternative. So they can allow those wrangles and have room for discussions, but within a reasonable time. I'm sure that they would need to put their house in order, because they must begin to get ready for 2027. In Kenya, we know that elections don't really end. Because they end, they stop, and the campaigns start very soon thereafter. So it will be important for them to put their house in order as soon as is viable, without too much upheaval, if it is possible.
And indeed, Alenga trusts that a policy advisor is also joining us. Alenga, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. We are discussing the future of ODM here. Leaders have even accused journalists of speaking ill of the ODM party, but we see how the leaders are speaking at the end of the day. Should we not be drawing conclusions to that effect? But the more interesting thing that was said during the burial of the ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga, especially from the deputy party leaders like the likes of Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir, come 2027, we will either form the government or we will be in the government. What do we read into that?
I think, Abdiaziz, the conversation about ODM post Raila is an imperative discussion, because it portends a lot of change in the Kenyan political space, inevitably so. If you look at the conversations that went on in the occasion of the interment of the late Prime Minister, you discover two lines of thought. You know, there are those who are directly benefiting from the broad-based regime, and maybe they are holding certain positions, and there are those who think if there is a merger between UD and ODM, they would potentially be placed at a higher place. And then there's now everybody else. But then the conversation that was lost was the conversation of what kind of party was ODM. ODM was not a tribal party. It was a national party. And if you look at its progress over the years, the people who have greatly contributed to ODM and to what Honorable Raila became were non-Luos. Lots of people from Ukambani, lots of people from the coastal region, from the northeastern, from the northeastern region, from Nairobi, where the center of politics for Raila was. Even the people from the northern part of the country and western at large. So therefore, it would be lost if we frame it as though he were a Luo kingpin. Raila was a national leader. So those leaders who are trying to diminish that conversation and make him look like a certain tribal chief are losing the conversation. But what is more important to discuss is what becomes of the ODM party after the demise of the late Prime Minister. If you look at the whole thing, the way it has panned out, they say when it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it is indeed a duck. So a division is coming, and the division would be based on those two angles, where there are those who have benefited and are flying a ministerial flag and they are not about to return it to State House. And then there are those who feel the room is too small and they have other ideas and they want to jump into the political space and see how they can continue with the conversation of the legacy of Baba. A lot of, you know, after that we have had people bringing receipts. You know, everybody was standing and saying, Baba told me this, Baba told me this. But eventually, Kenyans have brought the receipts on social media, and we have seen the last conversation of Baba. He asked the question, who told you? Yes.
Indeed, and of course that is a meeting that we personally even covered. I covered that particular story when he asked who told you that will not be fielding a candidate come 2027. But another interesting element here, Millie, is you remember the minority leader, that is Junet Mohammed, when he stood up, he clearly stated that many people are tormenting him online, clearly stating that he's among the orphans who have been left behind, even arguing that there are so many orphans who have been left behind in that particular diocese. No, in terms of the ramification that we'll see for leaders not only within the ODM party but outside the party itself, who used to depend on the support and the support that was given by the former premier, what do we see in come 2027? Will they be left out in the decision-making table? Are they able to, do we foresee a situation if they will retain their seats?
I think I must start by first saying that it is extremely sad that Raila had to move on at this particular moment because the country still needed him, and we still hoped that he would be there to guide us as we try to find our feet in this democratic space. But having said that, I must say that here is an opportunity for us to begin to see issue-based leaders. Because for so many decades now, many politicians have made their politics by either you stand up, and some people really have no agenda, they have nothing to sell. It is just to bash what Baba has said, you know. It is just to counter. If Raila says that we should move east, then you'll come out very strongly to say that we should move west, and people see you as, hey, that is a tough enough person to counter Raila, you know, so we must watch him, watch this space. And then there are those who have, of course, made their politics around supporting whatever Baba says. They say, if Baba says it is right. If Baba didn't say or hinted at it, it is right. Listen to Baba, and the script ends with Baba, and they say we are here to support Baba. So the politics for those two categories of leaders, which comprises a large percentage of the leadership that we have, will be struggling to change into the politics of the day, because they will now have to find issues. There is really, and the truth of the matter is that we have seen it. If the turnout at the funeral was anything to go by, even the love that we showed President Moi when he passed on, or President Kibaki when he passed on, and any of the other leaders that we've had, great as they are in the more recent past, it cannot be compared to the love that Kenyans showed across the country and across the continent, and in fact across the globe for Raila. So it will be important to see that now this big tree that was shedding so many careers, and that so many careers were feeding from, will now have to be seen for what issues they stand up for the people. So the demise of Raila is going to give us, the people, an opportunity to have people speak to our issues. So that I will love to hear who is going to speak about a strong inclusion agenda of all previously marginalized groups, and how they want to see this agenda brought forward. Because the other thing that Raila had galvanized around were issues of devolution and constitution, and we have those in place now. So it is just about either protecting the constitution, how, protecting devolution, how. It will have to be issue-based. And I'm hoping that we will now have in the next elections, a crop of leadership that we will be very excited to listen to every time they speak. Because we know that they'll be saying something interesting, and not that when you see somebody appear, you switch off your screen or you change channels because you know this one, you know, this one speaks about this, you know, and it becomes very fatiguing. But now we will be excited to hear what they say, and that, I think, will be a beautiful thing that will have been brought about by this most unfortunate event.
And Alenga, that has been the main question. Who will fill the shoe of the former premier, given that even the first vice president of this country, when he died, people are asking who will fill his shoe. At the end of the day, people got the ODM leader, Raila Amolo Odinga. Now they are asking a similar question. In your view, with a crop of leaders we have you identified anybody who could fill that particular shoe?
Absolutely not. But the way nature works, every leader rises from the surrounding circumstances and seasons. When we had Raila Odinga as a politician in this country, he was a blessing to the nation because he had a very unique type of politics. I could say Raila is one person who knew where to push and where to relax, where to talk, where to keep quiet, where to fight, where to cease fire. Those are very serious issues that most of our politicians do not have because they want to fight every day. Whether they are winning or they are losing, they have to be seen fighting. And when you look at the causes they fight for, are usually selfish causes or causes aligned to certain persons. So therefore, the demise of Raila opens, it's like the biblical moment when Christ died and the curtains in the temple were strewn into two pieces and everyone could go ahead and seek the Lord on their own. So this moment comes when now the space is empty. Those who are complaining that Raila is ensuring that their stars do not shine now have the whole universe for themselves. Those who felt their alternative views were not having a space and place to thrive, especially in Luo Nyanza, now have somewhere to begin from. And as much as Raila did a lot of things, his presence was offered a certain canopy that ensured that maybe youthful leadership, alternative views, and alternative thinking was not entertained because Raila himself as a person, he loved people who did not just agree for the sake of agreeing. He loved disruptors, he loved courageous people, but the people around him thought differently, so that when you would do that which Raila in himself as a person loved, they would think you are now going against Baba and you need to be punished. So now that moment has gone away. Remember when we had Sifuna speaking strongly and vehemently about things he did not like about the broad-based arrangement. Baba was the first person to say, let Sifuna speak, because in Sifuna, Baba could see his younger self, the younger self that could not agree in 1994 with Wamalwa Kijana, the younger self in him that resigned as MP for Langata constituency, becoming the first politician in this country to ever resign and seek mandate of the people afresh. You know, he was seeing that in him. So then I think we need to watch the space. And leaders arise from every corner. There is no clear format in how you replace someone. You know, when Jomo Kenyatta died, a lot of the people who formed the first government of Kenya after independence had put all their hopes in him. They would do nothing without his blessing, without him giving direction. But when he passed on, they didn't know what to do. They were sort of confused, but immediately other leaders rose into the space. Daniel Moi came and ruled the country for 24 years, something that nobody saw. And then after that, Kibaki comes. You know, after that, Uhuru comes. After that, William Ruto is there. So every moment shapes its own leadership. But then what I think is, instead of us focusing a lot on who should replace Raila, we should focus on what did Raila stand for? And now that we are alive, what is that we can do to fulfill the things that he wanted to achieve? You know, Raila upheld strongly the three principles that hold democracy, which is number one, the state, number two, the people, and number three, free press. Raila Odinga is the only politician that never sued a journalist, despite him being the most politician that people spoke about. Sometimes lies, sometimes truth, sometimes concocted things. He never had time to explain for himself. When people said he does not even have an education, he didn't explain himself. When people said he tried to topple the government in 1982, he never explained himself on a lot of these things because he had serious things to do. But then, Also, the legacy of Raila does not go away when we don't debunk certain myths, because there are narratives that were told over a long period of time, and they consumed the entire face of Raila, so that we looked at him just like the story of the six blind men and the elephant. Yeah, you know, like a story is told of Raila trying to topple the regime of Moi in 1982. But if you look at it factually, in 1982, Raila was 37 years old. He had no job. He was not in the military. He was not a government official. So how could he order the army to topple the government? So such narratives have been told over a long period of time until we reach a place where we think it's true. But the man's legacy must be left to stand as it is. History must be upheld in the right sense of it, so that we don't, we don't twist the history of this country to fit our perceptions.
And indeed, Millie, that what Alenga is saying is the truth. But one important thing was that was coming out of that particular funeral itself. People were saying, why not listen to what the supporters want? But rarely we do see politicians listening to what the populace want. Do you think this now, in honor of Raila Amolo Odinga, they will listen to what the supporters want, or which way they want that particular party to be taken?
You know, one of the qualities that we look for in leadership is somebody who can guide and somebody who can convince us about something that will be good for the people. Remember that many other times when you'll hear very loud voices, and the loud voices that you hear are not necessarily the voices of the masses. Many other times, for example, even when people look at the elections in 2022, when serious analysts sit, they will tell you that the fact that the turnout was as represented, it means that we are not sure why, unless you understand why that big population did not turn out to vote, then it becomes difficult for you to say you understand completely and entirely why people voted as they did or how the elections went as it did. So it's important to take that into account and be able to convince people. Take an example, the issue of devolution. We started off as a devolved state. Most of us who are history students know that. Those of us who don't know, I've had that said to them, so they know, they've had it. Then we went to a single party state. Now, when it came to the issue of going back to devolution, it was mostly a Raila agenda. And it was so bedeviled with mystic and negativity that anytime you spoke like devolution was a good thing, you sounded like a radical, a dissident. You'd whisper it, it was something you'd say in a makwenya. You know, you're a person who is not for the unity of this country. But he consistently talked to it and talked to the agenda until this agenda that many people did not think was good for them was embraced by a big percentage of the country, and now is protected by almost everybody. And even now, as we get frustrated with devolution as it presents, people say, well, we can discuss devolution, but not to remove it, to make it better. Do we reduce the number of counties? Do we change this and that? But devolution must stay. It's not about doing away with devolution, it's a new agenda. Now, I'm going into this long example because listening to the voices, it is so easy when I start saying today, look at the Finance Bill 2024. Initially, there were good parts of that bill, and we have subsequently seen members of private sector come out and say, these were our proposals in the 2024 bill that failed. You know, some of these were our proposals, and we thought if this passed, it would have made this country better. But there were those bad clauses which we all agree within that bill. Now, the voices that were making so much noise about this being a bad bill were too loud for the voices that were saying, protect my good clause, you know, protect this and that. Those of us who would want to remember will remember that Azimio had a lot of amendments that they wanted to bring to the bill, but they decided to withdraw them at the last minute because they felt the mood of the country was different and was not for the bill at all. So sometimes listening, then later on we come back and the private sector tells us we lost some good things that would have moved the economic agenda or the economy agenda forward had this passed in the 2024 bill. So we lost that agenda because of listening to the masses. So we need leadership. We need leadership that will not be guided by the futility of loud voices amongst us. We'll listen to the loud voices and also the quiet voices, and we'll be able to sift this and be able to guide us in telling us that this is the right way forward. Even the Raila that we are still mourning, today being the last official day, did not always go with the side of the voices. Many people said, do not go into broad-based. And they told him that. And he went round with his team to the country to listen to the various people and to explain to them what his thought was. And thereafter, when he made that decision, he then went out again of his way to explain to people why this was the best decision. We are looking for leadership right now. We are not looking for somebody who will lead the voices. We want somebody who will lead the nation and guide us into a direction that will take us where ultimately we all want to go. You may think that the best way to go will be round the mountain. I may think that the better way to go will be over the mountain. Someone else will think that let's dig a tunnel through the mountain. We need somebody who's going to tell us why the best way is perhaps with a chopper that will lift us up, where all the three avenues that we are proposing will not work in this circumstance. And I hope that the fact that Raila tried to leave a strong political party with structures, that they will use those structures to be able to guide the following. Because if those numbers are anything to go by, ODM has got a lot of goodwill, and they should not lose that goodwill.
And aside from the broad base itself, Alenga, we are talking about something that happened after the 2022 general election. Of course, the Azimio outfit led by Raila Amolo Odinga said that the elections did not go as they pleased, but at the end of the day, they came together with the ruling coalition, formed something called the NADCO. You heard what the minority leader of the National Assembly, Junet Mohammed, clearly stating that they have agreed with the majority leader that they will push for the NADCO report to be implemented fully. Aside from what had been implemented at the end of the day when it comes to the IBC, the selection panel from 7 to 9, and certain acts within the IBC Act itself. But the question is, did we have to wait until we lost Raila Amolo Odinga for the NADCO report to be fully implemented?
I think before I pick on your question, I would just like to underscore what Wakili Luanga has pointed on. She strongly laments about our level of debate as a country. Most of the things we do usually take a binary of the ones who don't and the ones who like, you know. But we have to improve our level of debate in such a way that we're not specialists at pulling down things, but we are specialists at improving things. Because you see quite a lot, the problems that we have in this country generate from the fact that some people will say they want this and another group will say we do not want. Then each group will try to supply evidence and convince the masses that this is indeed bad. Look, for instance, the systems we have changed, maybe the health system, sure. There are those who vehemently tell us that it's not working, but there are those who actually have brought it into the room and it's there to stay. And before we got here, it was debated for in Parliament, and they passed it. But then they come out and tell us it's really a bad scheme. So instead of fighting it and saying we do not want this, how do we make it better? You know? Yeah. When it comes to the education funding model, how do we make it better? Because we cannot stick in the old factory and say this is where we want to develop from if there are new methods of doing things. But if the level of debate is improved, and that is embodied in the person who Raila was, because a lot of people that discuss the legacy of Raila basically discuss the legacy of Raila when he became a party leader and a movement leader and all that. They forget about Raila the MP. What did he do in that house when there were things that he didn't like? When there are things that he did not like, he took them into that parliament as bills. Raila took there the National Integration Cohesion Bill when he felt the nation was torn after the 2007 election. Raila took there the land bill. He took there the IEBC bill, you know. So we have a parliament that understands that their first role is to represent the people, to legislate and to do oversight. But they come outside here and make the noise. But when they are confronted with a chance to table that which they have a problem with in parliament, yes, and have the whole house debate it and make a decision on it, they do not. So why do they run away from where they can actually speak, and then they come to the streets where they evoke emotions in the people, and without thinking a lot, the people pick the piecemeal conversations that they get from their politicians and make a decision based on that. Then I could have... The NADCO report. Yeah, the NADCO report was a good document, but then where they add is in the fact that we cannot, as a nation, cultivate this atmosphere or this working arrangement where a few select people shall always be sitting somewhere to deliberate for the whole country. So the sittings at Bomas offended the public consciousness on the sense that it cannot be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people who understand our issues. And most of the issues that were being discussed in and put in the NADCO report are not new things in the Kenyan political space. They are things that we all understand that they have to be done. Things like the 2/3 gender rule. It's not something that needs to be in the NADCO report when it is actually in the Constitution. Yes. It's the House that is supposed to find out how best do we implement the 2/3 gender rule. Things about improving the cost of living. These are things that have to be done at policy level. What is the Ministry of Agriculture doing? What incentives do we need to give them to produce more food? What do we need to open markets for our commodities? What do we need to do in terms of value addition for what we get down here? And how do we expand our regional markets? How do we expand our international markets? How do we fill the gap that AGOA has left, you know? So those are things that can be achieved at policy level without necessarily putting a political fingerprint on them. When they take a political direction, then people will start looking at who is saying it rather than what is being said. So that's where the conversation was lost. And I think going forward, the president knows the problems of this country. He does not even need an NADCO report. He just needs to work across board to fill those gaps. And once we have a government that is sensitive to the issues that are bedeviling this country, then we do not need any form of reports. So even as the leaders were pushing for the NADCO report, they could also just be pushing for the benefit of certain issues that were there that are benefiting the politicians. I take great exception with a clause that was calling for the office of the leader of opposition. No, we do not have to have an office of the leader of opposition being funded by the government. You know, where I come from, they say, whoever feeds you tethers you. So they will determine how far you can graze. So I think opposition politics in Kenya also needs to be revived so that after the election, we don't again look at the government. You see, that's what is happening. Somebody gets elected today, they are sworn in, 3 months down the line, they're saying, now I want to support the government. So you injure the expectations of the people who selected you on that particular ticket. And the party that becomes the opposition, we need to find out what happens in the next 5 years as you're in opposition politics. Look at developed states that have democracies that have endured years, like the United States of America. Right now, the Democrats lost power to the Republicans. What are the Democrats doing? You know, can we have these parties having structuralized think tanks, economic think tanks, political think tanks, social welfare think tanks, so that they inform their opposition of the government based on research, analysis, and data, But we have politicians who have specialized speaking in funerals for a whole 5 years.
And indeed, that is the other argument that people are making online, given that Raila Amolo Odinga had already embodied the face of opposition in terms of what he was fighting for in this country. But we still have the Kalonzos, the Martha Karuas, now the Matiangis, the Maragas. Where do you place them now?
I think that it's not fair to question where to place them, because they have been clearly and firmly presenting themselves as an alternative voice to the voice that is currently in governance. And other than Martha Karua, who jumped ship from Azimio, Kalonzo Musyoka and his team remained in Azimio. Amongst Azimio still remains as a coalition of parties, and there are those parties that remained there and present as the minority. Now, I think that one of the issues that we keep missing as a nation is an opportunity for us to be truthful to the problems facing us, to do away with the politics of the day, and be able to grasp the opportunity, whether it was pushed, an agenda that was pushed by yourself or by someone else. And I say this because the truth of the matter is this, that when we were passing the Constitution of Kenya 2010, there were clauses within that Constitution that were not good. And those who were campaigning for the Constitution came round and to support it told us that why throw away the entire thing? Over 85% of it is good. Let's have it, and then we will amend it. So for those who voted for it, believing that we will amend it, they have been waiting for that amendment so that the problems with it would be corrected. And any time we talk about amending it, people run away with it. I say this because look at even the kind of governance structure that we have. You say that you want a presidential system, but at the same time, it's a kind of watered down presidential system when we do away with the parliamentary system, and it seems not to work for us. We talk about affirmative action, and we talk about inclusion of previously marginalized groups, including in elective positions, and at the same time we talk about the importance of one vote, each vote counting, and in fact saying that a president becomes president having gotten 50+1, the importance of that one vote. Now, when you look at all these contradictions within the Constitution and why it has been difficult, for example, to implement the 2/3 gender rule if you don't have political parties winning slots, and then those political parties putting in place members that will represent youth, persons with disabilities, marginalized communities, women, elders, elderly people, you know, all represented within that body. How else would you be able to realize it? We do not want to have that conversation. So at this particular juncture, when we know, look at even reports we've had like the Ndumu report that dealt with land, we've never implemented it. I think it is important for us to use this opportunity to say, let us correct these things now. If it requires a constitutional amendment, let us quickly amend. We know that we have bypassed the period within which the boundaries should have been reviewed. We know we are waiting for a court advisory on whether it is possible to do it within these certain timelines. We know we have a current IEBC that has come in. How do we make sure that within this confused state that we have, and the fact that we've come together, we've been brought together yet again by Amolo Odinga, by his death. Can we use that opportunity to say, let's correct these things now, so that as we go into elections, we go into elections knowing that going forward, instead of 1 million elected members, we will only be having 500, you know, instead of this number of people, and this is the way that we'll be going forward. But again, the conversation will turn, and I hope not, but you may hear it turning again to the normal things of implement the Constitution, you know, the things that have been unrealistic so far, but we want to cling on to. So I'm hoping that at this time, we will use this period of mourning and the fact that Raila has brought us together to be able to deal with all these things that have been unclear so far for the country.
And Alenka, you do remember that PG meeting, Raila Amolo Odinga raising pertinent concerns that Millie is raising, saying that even the amount of counties we do have ought to have been reduced at least so that the resources can be ample for everybody to enjoy. Why the MPs having NGCDF, it should have gone to the governors to implement in the county levels, and why are senators doing the works of the MCAs? But now he has gone. Do we expect these leaders to at least live up to the expectations that Odinga had for devolution?
I will disappoint you that with the current leaders that we have, the ones we see on these TVs every day, we cannot get any meaningful change. And I think for us as a nation, what we should be thinking about is how do we make changes that that are so immediate, and who does it take to make those changes? Because the wananchi outside there think it's the 291 MPs we have elected. They think it's the 47 senators. They think it's the one president we have. So we need to broaden this conversation so that the Kenya we want becomes a conversation for everyone. In your own little spaces, what are you doing to make Kenya best? It falls back to the criteria that we are using in electing our leaders. And maybe if we look at the politics of Raila Odinga, we learn a few things. Number one, he did not pay people to listen to him, what our politicians are doing today. If we have politician X having a meeting behind this building, you'll see some yellow buses from school buses parking in the next field. They have imported people to listen to them. They even import people to cheer them. And sometimes they forget to tell them to sit everywhere so that they sit in one place. And they are the only ones saying, yes. Every time the cameras flash, there's a certain region in the crowd that is celebrating. So those are the kind of leaders that we have. It has become a game of money to even become a leader in this country. When you sit in that office, you feel like you're already paid to be in this office. So the expectations of the masses should be lowered because they were paid 200 shillings up front. Raila did not do such kind of politics. Two, there is a politics of where you start from your community, then you radicalize them to feel like they're the most special people and everybody else doesn't matter. And for that matter, when you do wrongs, you go back to them again and lament and say, see how they are doing to us. And the people say, this is our man, this is our lady, we don't want that to hear that again. So it becomes difficult to even punish bad manners in this country. But Raila's politics was city-based. He founded his base here in Nairobi because he knew all the communities are here in Nairobi. And from there he spread to all the other regions of the country and endeared to every single person in this country in his own way. That is what politics needs to be. So once we distance the idea of voter bribery from politics, then we sift and ensure that the people that are coming in basically to represent the people. So once we now get that crop of leaders that understand that they're supposed to represent the people, then it becomes easier now to tell them, so this is the Kenya we want. Now this crop of leaders must come from within us, because these bad ones, we also got them from within us. You know? And I think deeply, if we search ourselves, we know everyone around us. But if we just purpose to say, this is the kind of leader that we want. You know, today you hear MPs telling you, and sometimes constituents tell you, you know, our MP does not speak in parliament, but we are okay on the ground, he's doing things. Our MP, and you know, you hear them telling you, uko bunge ni kizungu mingi, but on the ground, me, I'm very present. That's where the question of CDF comes in. Because we have replaced the work that the Constitution gives to the MPs to basically building classes in the village, buying buses, and digging boreholes. That is not the major point that MPs are elected. If you go into our Constitution, it is three things: representation, oversight, and legislation. It starts and ends there. These other things that you're building, these other things that you're doing for the villagers is just the icing on the cake. But primarily, you should be at Bunge, changing those things that you do not agree with. So we have come to a point where the leaders that we have elected lament more than ourselves. They come and make noise about SHA, they come and make noise about university funding, they come and make noise about roads, they come and make noise about... But these are the people that have the power to change everything, even including what goes to the president's kitty, what goes to renovate State House. They are the ones who are supposed to decide how much goes there. But they are not present to make those discussions. But then after that, they come outside here and tell you, Simunaona, you know. I mean.
But
and
you see,
there's this complaint that the number in the House is too big, particularly in the National Assembly, for them even to catch the eye of the Speaker and for them to speak. But if you do try to follow the parliamentary proceedings, thanks even to KBC that airs it every day when it is on, you will find that the numbers of people in the House are so few that if you were present, you would speak. In fact, you'll notice that certain leaders, for example, the chair of the Health Committee, Nikal, is there and he speaks elaborately because he is there. He will therefore catch the speaker's eye, you know, amongst few other leaders. But you find that they will complain about that. Now, the other oversight role that they have would be within committees. And again, we do see media giving us opportunity to see what is happening when some of these committees are sitting and these different executive heads appear before them to come and explain themselves as to how they're handling, whether it is the issue of SHA, whether it is the issue of education and etc. Again, you will look at this committee sitting and you find that the committee membership, the representation may not be full house, unless if it's perhaps a very hot, a very hot issue. So the opportunities that they have to be able to execute these roles, they are not exhausting. And it would be important for us to have leaders who go to the House who will be thirsty for and urged to grasp those opportunities because they want to speak and they want to be heard and they want to have the answered so that they can go and tell people that this is what we said and this is what is wrong, so that people can understand that we are speaking to the government as they're implementing what we agreed with them, the social contract that we have with them, to be able to, for us to realize a better economic, social, cultural life as a Kenyan, that our leaders are oversighting, and where there's a problem, they are telling them that there's a problem. But even these avenues, we don't see them doing that. Yes.
And we only have 2 minutes before we take our first commercial break. But Alenga, back to what you're clearly stating, because the question is, how did these leaders get there? It is us who place them there. Are we conscious to the reality that we have in our governance structures?
The leaders get there because, number one, the poverty that we have in this country is structuralized poverty. It's not that it's God-given, that he chose Kenya and he said, thou shalt be poor. There are certain systems that have ensured the distribution of the public resources is done in a very unfair manner. We brought in devolution to try and cure that, but still, you see, we give to the devolved functions, or devolved units, about 15% of our revenue that quite so often comes late, you know. So then the people in the village there do not have something to put on the table. So if you manage to steal money from wherever you can and come and give them, they would definitely vote for you because you have given them a meal for the day. Then also our leaders do not have the leadership in them. They do not have the level of debate. They're not articulate in what they have to tell the people. So when they go to these people, they have nothing to tell them. So they just need to buy their attention. It's, you know, it's like when you're wooing a girl and you do not have the vibe, you have to use money. So that's what happens in the voting. So if we distance the money from the politics and ensure that there are strict measures to ensure voter bribery is not part of the games that are played in our elections, then we may be on a path to get better representation.
Okay, we need to conclude this first hour because we need to pay some bills as well. We're taking our first commercial break here on News Check. Do not go too far, of course, worry less. The conversation continues on the other end, so don't go too far.
Njo mwami roho yangu haimpendi umundu kama Elija kunyasi akili kweli mwanefu.
Kusema kweli umtumia nanda kichwa sana.
What if we involve the police? Juu sasa imekuwa riski.
Wacha kwanza nikabiliana nalo. Sawa?
And by the way, how is Josh? Hata amesahau mimi ni sister yake.
Haki nilisikia kilichokufanyikia. Najua inashtua.
Amekuwa akinitishia. Unajua kuna dhambi nilifanya na akajua.
Na naomba msamaha kwa niaba yake. Msamee pastor.
Wengine watasema niko na kichaa.
The world of governance is vast and can be alien to the ordinary man on the street.
Critical issues are going to be discussed.
From white papers to policy positions, it is easier to get lost in the labyrinth of words.
Inside Government takes you to key global metropolis where critical decisions are made and where policies are crafted.
We interview policymakers and senior government officials to highlight and enumerate government policies and projects. We take a deep dive into the underbelly of complex red tape to demystify policies across the country, across the world. Join me, O'Brien Kimani, on Inside Government, only on KBC Channel 1.
It's art, it's culture, it's fun, it's attitude.
As you can see with me, I have this handkerchief. And is it really a handkerchief or is it?
My name is Kevin Kasioki. Please join me each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we have
to do it twice.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Continue with the conversation online. We'll be sampling some of your views as the session continues at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 2. Before we continue with our conversation, let's give you a brief history of who Raila Amolo Odinga was, especially given that he served in various capacities within the government and even outside the government, being the opposition leader for a number of years. Here's the cabinet with that particular expert.
Raila Amolo Odinga was born on January 7, 1945 in Maseno, Kisumu district, to Mary Juma Odinga and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. His father served as the first vice president of Kenya, under President Jomo Kenyatta. He studied in East Germany, graduating from the Technical University of Marburg with a degree of mechanical engineering before joining the University of Nairobi as a lecturer and later serving at the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Odinga's route to the cabinet and beyond began when he joined elective politics following the reintroduction of multi-party democracy in 1992. He was a central figure in the clamour for the return of multi-party politics, dubbed Kenya's second liberation. Between 1982 and 1988, Raila Odinga was jailed for treason. He was again detained in July 1990 alongside Kenneth Matiba and Charles Rubier for calling for the return of multi-party politics. After his release in June 1991, fearing for his life, he fled to Norway. In February 1992, he returned home and joined the Forum for Restoration of Democracy, led by his father Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. When Ford later split into Ford Kenya under Jaramogi and Ford Asili under Matiba, Raila became Ford Kenya's Deputy Director of Elections. That same year, he was elected Member of Parliament for Lang'ata constituency in Nairobi, a seat he would retain in subsequent elections in 1997, 2002 and 2007. In his first presidential attempt in 1997, Raila Odinga finished third after President Daniel Moi and Democratic Party candidate Mwai Kibaki. In March 2002, his National Development Party merged with KANU to form the new KANU, a union sealed when Moi appointed Raila and other NDP leaders to cabinet posts. Odinga became Minister for Energy in June 2001. However, in October 2002, he resigned, taking with him his NDP brigade and several KANU stalwarts, including Kalonzo Musyoka, Joseph Kamotho, and Saitoti. The group formed the Rainbow Movement, which later merged with Mwai Kibaki's National Alliance Party of Kenya to form the National Rainbow Coalition, NAC. In a moment, that would change Kenya's political destiny. Odinga stood before a charged crowd and declared Kibaki Tosha, endorsing Mwai Kibaki as the opposition's presidential candidate. His rallying call united the opposition and ended the era of KANU dominance. Odinga campaigned tirelessly for Kibaki, especially after a car accident left the presidential hopeful hospitalized. His efforts helped deliver a resounding victory, with Kibaki winning 67% of the total vote. A pre-election memorandum of understanding between Kibaki's NAC and Odinga's Liberal Democratic Party was said to have promised Raila the post of Prime Minister and LDP half of the cabinet positions. However, that promise was never fulfilled. The perceived betrayal led to the tensions within government, culminating in an open rift between President Kibaki and Odinga. A key point of contention was the proposed new constitution, which Odinga opposed, arguing that it consolidated presidential powers. He led the No campaign against the draft constitution in the 2005 referendum, defeating the government side with 57% of the vote. President Kibaki resigned by dissolving the cabinet on November 23, 2005. When President Kibaki reconstituted his cabinet, Raila and his LDP allies were excluded. He responded by forming the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM, which became a formidable political force. By August 2007, ODM had split into two factions, Odinga leading ODM and Kalonzo Musyoka leading ODM Kenya. At ODM's National Delegates Conference in September 2007, held at the Moi International Sports Centre, Kasarani, Odinga won the presidential nomination with 2,656 votes ahead of Musalia Mudavadi and William Ruto. Mudavadi was named his running mate. The December 2007 elections ended in controversy when the Electoral Commission declared Kibaki the winner by a margin of about 232,000 votes. ODM rejected the results, sparking weeks of violence that claimed over 1,300 lives and displaced more than 250,000 people. The crisis drew international attention, and under the mediation of former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, a power-sharing deal was reached, creating a coalition government. Raila Odinga became Kenya's second prime minister, the first being Jomo Kenyatta. Later, his relationship with then Agriculture Minister William Ruto and other Kalenjin leaders deteriorated over the International Criminal Court investigation into the 2007-2008 post-election violence. In 2013, under Kenya's new constitution, Odinga again contested the presidency, this time under the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, uniting his ODM with Kalonzo Musyoka's Wiper and Rectangular's Ford Kenya with Kalonzo Musyoka as his running mate. His opponents, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, faced ICC charges but were nonetheless nominated by the Jubilee coalition. In the March 4, 2013 election, Kenyatta garnered 6,173,433 votes to Odinga's 5,340,546 votes. Odinga challenged the results in the Supreme Court, citing massive failures of the biometric voter registration kits. However, Chief Justice William Mutunga dismissed additional evidence filed late, and the court upheld Kenyatta's victory on March 30, 2013. Kenyatta's inauguration on 9 April 2013 marked the end of Odinga's tenure as Prime Minister. On April 27, 2017, Odinga was endorsed by the National Super Alliance to contest the presidency once more, with Musyoka again as his running mate. When the August 8, 2017 election results declared Kenyatta the winner with 54% of the vote against Odinga 43%, Odinga petitioned the Supreme Court. In a historic ruling, Chief Justice David Maraga annulled the results, citing irregularities and illegalities. However, Odinga withdrew from the repeat election scheduled for October 26th, citing lack of reforms at the IEBC. Kenyatta won the rerun, and tensions remained high as Odinga symbolically saw himself in as the people's president at Uhuru Park, an act that led to the deportation of his ally Miguna Miguna. Then came the unexpected truce. On March 9, 2018, Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta emerged from Harambee House and announced the handshake, a peace pact that redefined Kenya's political landscape. Odinga was later appointed the African Union Commission's High Representative for Infrastructure Development. His collaboration with Uhuru deepened through the Azimio la Umoja coalition, with the former president endorsing him as the coalition's presidential flag bearer in 2022. In May 2022, Odinga named Martha Karua as his running mate, the first woman ever to hold that position in a major Kenyan political alliance. Despite a spirited campaign, he lost the August 9, 2022 election to William Ruto. Subsequently, he worked with President Ruto in a broad-based government that included several of his longtime allies. In 2025, he made a bid for the chairperson of the African Union Commission. Despite strong regional support, he lost to Djibouti's Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. On Wednesday, October 15, 2025, he passed away while receiving medical treatment in India. Throughout his illustrious political career, Raila Odinga was known by many affectionate nicknames: Baba the Father, Agwambo the Act of God, Nyundo the Hammer, Tinga the Tractor, symbol of his former NDP party, and Mtu wa Vitendawili, the Man of Riddles. He leaves behind a legacy etched in Kenya's political history, one defined by resilience, sacrifice, an unrelenting quest for justice, equality and unity for all. He was widely regarded as a master strategist and mass mobilizer, a leader capable of drawing immense crowds to his rallies and connecting deeply with the ordinary citizen. Raila Amolo Odinga will be remembered for his unwavering fight for democratic freedoms, human rights and political inclusion. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Now, you have seen his illustrious career over 40 years within the government as well as outside that particular administration that he even worked with on a number of occasions. Now, that will bring or culminate his journey to being conferred the Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart of Kenya, which was accorded yesterday by President William Ruto. Have a look.
As the country continues to mark the 7 days of mourning, President Ruto used the Mashujaa Day platform to honor the late ODM leader.
Observe a moment of silence in honor and celebration of his remarkable life and service to our great country, our continent, and to humanity.
A minute of silence, followed by a glowing tribute from the president and visiting dignitaries.
I pay tribute to the memory of the illustrious departed and express my deep compassion to President Ruto, to his family, and to the people of Kenya. May his soul rest in peace.
And even at this time, as we continue to mourn the departure of our former Prime Minister, one of the greatest Kenyans to ever walk on our soil, we remember many more, those who have gone before us for selflessly protecting our sovereignty, defending our dignity.
In a solemn moment, Ruto announced the posthumous conferment of a Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart to Raila Odinga.
Greatness and nobility are never achieved by settling for the ordinary or the comfortable. They are seized by those who dare to push the frontiers of possibility, by those who refuse to be confined by what is, but instead reach boldly for what could be.
The president also took aim at critics of a broad-based government, accusing them of missing the bigger picture.
When some saw the opportunity to bring down their competitors, even if it meant bringing down the country, Baba chose the stability of Kenya. For Agwambo, the specter of a failed state was too grave to contemplate.
He rallied Kenyans to unite beyond ethnic lines, calling it the truest way to honor Raila's legacy.
He tirelessly reminded leaders and citizens alike that our overarching identity is not defined by tribe, region, or creed, but by the sacred bond of being Kenyan.
In line with what he described as Raila's vision for inclusive development, Ruto pledged to reach out to more leaders in what is seen as an olive branch to Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka to forge a development-conscious coalition.
I have consulted with my former boss, the fourth president of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. I have held discussions with majority of members of parliament, and they are here. I have consulted with many governors and grassroots leaders from every corner of the nation. And I will continue to engage because Kenya's progress must never be a partisan pursuit. It is a national inclusive mission.
will forever live in our minds and in our hearts, given that what he fought for in our country for the last 8 years, he has been on this particular soil. Also, before I cut Millie short, we wanted to talk about how the crop of leaders that we have in our country, how did they reach there? Because at the end of the day, it is us who voted for them to be there.
Yes, and I wanted to add on to what my co-panelist had stated, and just remind us that a portion of the blame comes to us, the people, because I know for a fact that there have been opportunities where we have been told, eat that money that you're given, it is your money after all. Because rarely will you find that someone who has made money through private sector will come and dish it out in the name of campaigning and getting votes. So we are told that is money that likely came from public sector, so eat it, but then vote with your conscience. But when you try to have public participation, where you'll hear every Kenyan will tell you public participation, the minute they hear any bill has been passed or any action taken, the first reaction will be, was there public participation? But do we go out of our way to look for those forums for public participation? And when we do identify them, do we engage? And when we do engage, do we engage from an informed perspective? Do we even take time to be able to listen? Because you'll find that many other times when we'll be invited to a forum where there's public participation going on, and you will go there because you have been paid by a certain politician to just go and bash that thing down, or to support it, say it is good, whereas as you exit from that venue, you will not be able to say what is good about that thing that you are talking about. And you'll find that many other times you will just go with the flow, you know. At one time we were being told Baba amesoma, na amesema ni mzuri, so if Baba said so, then it is good. Now, we have reached that stage where many of us will say, well, such blogger, or such and such blogger has said that this thing is negative, therefore it is negative. But what is negative about it, or how it is negative for my interests, is something that very few people can speak to. And even those few who can speak to it sometimes will be speaking from a misinformed position, whereas access to information is enshrined in the Constitution and things are made available for us. So yes, we do have a problem with the leadership, but we must also look at ourselves as the people and be able to do better. So that principle that we want to protect so much of public participation and being engaged in our governance, that we make maximum use of it. And maybe lessons that can be drawn, Alenga. You heard from Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, the Kisumu governor, clearly stating that one of the last meetings he had with Raila Amolo Odinga in terms of entrenching, or rather doing away with ethnic balkanization, not just within the ODM structures, but across the country, in terms of realizing the end of tribalism. Is it something that can be drawn out or learned from the current generation that we have, that was saying last year to this year, they are leaderless, they are tribeless?
I think one of the biggest things that you identify when you try to analyze Raila's history is that he was a huge victim of tribalism. There are people who stopped him from being president just simply because he was not one of their own. And I think that thing became a huge stumbling block for Kenya to realize a lot of economic progress, the development of our nationalistic values, because the tribalism has become so deeply entrenched in everything that we do. We have, even right from the burial of Raila, you would go to social media and you hear people speak a lot of weird things. Just because you do not understand the Luo culture, it does not mean that that is primitive or your culture is now superior than the Luo culture. You need to take time to understand. Ask questions. Why are they doing this? Why are they taking bulls? Why are they... Don't start, describing it now from what your grandmother told you in 1960 about that community, you know. So that's where we are stuck as many Kenyans. We need to explore all the borders of this country. we are a diverse people. Unlike many other nations, which sometimes have just a common community, they have one accent. You know, Kenya is the only country you get out of Kenya and you go with your Gikuyu accent, the other one goes with his Kalenjin accent, the other one goes with his Lui accent. There is no Kenyan accent. So if we understood even from that point of view that we are all Kenyans, and every part of this country is there for you. Go to Mandera, learn their culture, see what they are doing, appreciate them. Do not judge because you have never stepped beyond the borders of Limuru. And now you don't know what the other people from their side do. You've never been to Kisii to appreciate the richness of their culture and the values they bring on board. And then overall, let's also, from the lessons we draw from Raila's politics, Raila worked with people from every community. There were Maasais in his office, in his campaigns. There were, you know, people from Turkana, people from Mandera, wherever. He lived with them and worked with them because he learned to judge people based on the content of their ability, character and personality, and not where they come from. But more importantly, to learn from Raila's legacy is that every time Raila participated in an election and he was not happy, he ran to the judiciary. He was teaching us a very proper lesson that conflicts must be resolved where best they can be resolved. There are many nations we have seen after elections, people start just slaughtering each other because they do not believe in their own judiciary. But Raila inspired that faith in our judicial systems. It may have its weaknesses, as it were, but he said, for us to strengthen it, let us keep bringing to them our problems. And from that jurisprudence that is raised, then we strengthen our judiciary, and in the fullness of time, we have a judiciary that can be emulated elsewhere. And you have seen, after the election of, after the many presidential petitions Raila has brought to the judiciary, you have seen even other countries have tried to do the same. They have tried to move to courts and have results of their elections adjudicated by judicial officers. Raila knew that we were going to a place where maybe we would have very strong leaders who cannot cede back so easily, but the judiciary will be our only salvation. So he strongly inspired us to have faith in the judiciary. So and then I think that is what I would actually, even as we go towards the election of 2027, if there be any person that is not happy with the outcome, let us not turn against our neighbors, but let's go to the judiciary. Let's take there our facts. We can even take there with 100 lorries. The judiciary, always they are faithful. They have time. They sit through all those hours. They come through the heaps and heaps of papers that we bring to them, and eventually they read as a judgment.
And we saw it especially in 2017.
Yes.
Where
finally, I think to the younger generation, you know, we had a moment in this country that almost threw us to the brink of collapse as a country, the Gen Z demonstrations. The young people think that they were pushing for a change, which is okay in every community. There has to be a change and people have to speak. But what you learn from Raila is that he knew when to stop. And so even our young people, as we push for change, we are much younger, and we need to collaborate even with the older people. You see Raila in his politics, he collaborated with these older people in as much as he had divergent opinion, but he still collaborated with them for a better Kenya, because each one of us is part of this fabric that is called Kenya. We cannot exclude the old people and say they don't know what they are saying, they cannot tell us anything. They have a lot of wisdom to give us. And we need to talk to the old people and just tell them what is it we can do. Let us stand out and let us be seen for what we can do, so that the old people also have faith in the younger generation and say, maybe if we push this young man for leadership, he can help the community. But we cannot push them away and still want to function in the society. So for the young people, there's a there's something that Raila put a lot of value and premium onto, and that was the statehood. The fact that, and Raila said in his own words, you'd rather have a government that you don't like than have none at all. Today, the Gen Zs in Madagascar went for protests and their president was kicked out, and now the military has taken over. Michel, the military commander, has promised to be in the seat for 2 years and then call for fresh elections. We will see if that 2 years ends and an election is called. Today, Madagascar has taken a trajectory that will take so many years to bring back the country to where it was. So for our young people, we have divergent opinions. We have knowledge and wisdom that we have gained over the years. We have ultra-modern skills that we have, but we need to grow under a system. And then we need to learn from the ones who have gone before us. We need to look back at history and, more importantly, hold on this thing called the state. Let's have a live state so that all of us can dwell under an atmosphere where even our views will thrive.
And indeed, Millie, before even Raila Amolo Odinga departed and was taken by God at the end of the day, he was calling for a conclave, he was calling for a dialogue. Let's form that bridge between the old and the newer generation. But in terms of ensuring that we do not cascade to where the country that Trust Alenga has talked about in terms of Madagascar and other countries that we've witnessed all over the world, what should the leaders of today do to ensure that the concerns of the youth are heard? Because the youth are making the argument, we have been told over the years, our time is coming, our time is coming. When is our time now?
I think that it would be important for the youth to realize that talking there can never be something as we've talked too much. It's never enough, and it can never be too much. There's always, and there should always be more room for dialogue. And I say this because there are always different nuances. You know, some of these political issues, there are different nuances. We are talking about the ODM today, earlier. The situation or the circumstances dictating this morning may be very different circumstances in a week's time. So it's always important to give that room to see what has shifted, what has changed, and how best to adjust, so that you still work within the parameters or the realities of the day. Because some of this may have been overlooked, may have been ignored, or may have been occasioned by an act of God. So it is important to keep talking and to keep giving room. And we can't belabor the fact that all these things that must be done within a state. If it is not done within the confines of governance, then what is the point? What is the point of losing all this, or losing all the gains that we have made, including the freedoms of expression, association, multipartism, that we have gained this far, all in the fit of an anger because of one other thing that we want today that we may be able to gain and gain more of tomorrow. So you can only urge patience and remind them, because fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, for most of the young people now, they found this cake already baked. They found these things in place. They did not see the journey that it took and the give and take that was there before we reached where we are today. They did not see Raila the firebrand have to step in and go and shake hands with the man who caused him permanent injury for the sake of, not just his own sake, but for the sake of bringing an issue to the national agenda. And that's why, for me, the favorite name for him remains Stinger. And go in there and be able to bring change within this humongous monster called KANU that nobody thought anyone could infiltrate. So they did not see that. They didn't have that benefit of seeing that. And it would be important for them to know that it took steps, it took give and take, it took sacrifices for us to reach here. Yes, we are here now. We do not want to stay here. We want to move ahead. And in order for us to continue with that journey of progression, there must continue to be gives and takes. Again, you cannot do these things without a leader. I mean, we have 10 fingers, but each finger has its role. And you can't decide that you're going to use your little pinky finger to support your weight when we all know that it is the thumb that can do that role. So it is important to move away from this conversation of being leaderless, because at the end of the day, you must have some few people who you'll be able to say that these ones speak for us, and you give them that room to speak for you. I'm saying this because we have seen since 2024 that anyone who has been identified as a potential leader of the young people is immediately ostracized by the young people, and they say he's not our leader, we remain leaderless. How do we talk to you? Even if you wanted to come and talk to members of a profession, whether it be lawyers, whether it be accountants, whether it be doctors, they must give you some people who you'll talk to. You can't talk to all the teachers in Kenya. They must give you some teachers that they will listen to, who will come and tell you what the issue of the teachers are. So I hope that they can begin to embrace that and learn from the life of Tinga, that he gave room for that to happen in order for him to lead us and bring us to where he has left us. And so for them, they must pick up from there. And unless there's this new way that they will suddenly carve of moving the agenda forward, whereas give and take and having leadership is what we have seen right from, for those who are Christians, right from the days of Jesus. Because there were all these Christians, but we had to have disciples. There were all these people who were speaking, but we had to have, even amongst the disciples, there was the one who was loved, there was the one who was the leader, you know? So it's important for us to realize that that's the structure that has been happening for now. And unless a new one is emergent that they will teach us, they would adopt that, because some of us are still here who know only that structure.
And I trust that when Odinga was explaining why he had sorted to work with the current administration, that is the Kenya Kwanza, that born what was called now the broad-based government, he clearly stated that to overthrow a government is through the ballot box. But since IBC opened up the voter registration, we have seen the dwindling numbers, especially from the youth, in terms of voter registration. And this is something that Odinga himself even advocated back in 2022 when he was saying kijana fire, vijana fire, go take your voter's card and ensure at the end of the day you vote for the administration that you want. But we've seen a number of them are not taking up this particular opportunity.
I think that is not even the most grave situation. The more serious one is what Wakili raised earlier on. In the last election, we had about 8 million people who did not vote.
Yes.
They did not cast a ballot. So then now we have continuous voter registration that has been opened, and the numbers are so tiny. The people who are turning up daily to vote are very few. So two things to ponder. Is it the structure of IEBC in terms of how they conduct the continuous voter registration that is barring many people from registering? Because the conversations I've had is of people who live in different places and they would like to register as voters for another place. Like let's say someone from Vihiga constituency, where I will be vying for MP in 2027, and then he's in Nairobi, but he wants to register as a voter and vote for me in Vihiga. They don't know how to go about it. So I think there could be some voter education around it. Is it any IEBC office that you can walk to in the country that will help you to register and choose a polling station of your choice, or must you go to location Nyuma ya ID? So those are the things that they need to figure out. And then number two, now also it's the willingness of the younger generation to participate in electoral politics. So I think when I was growing up, we used to listen a lot to the radio because we wanted to know what is happening in the country. But today, we have a generation that you ask them if something was shown on TV and they tell you like, I no longer watch TV. So what do you watch? They are always on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, which are very good platforms. But in those platforms, you get piecemeal of news. You know, you don't get the whole story. That's what Wakili was trying to raise earlier, that you go on social media and you see somebody saying this is bad, and then you're like, it's really bad because so and so said, and I am following them on social media. So I think for the younger generation, let's understand that there's only one way you can make your change. If you do not like the government of the day, there's only one way you can register and go and vote it out. If you support it, there's only one way you can go and register and vote for that government. If there is a politician that you want or you do not want, the only way you can make a decision about them is through the ballot. So there is power in the ballot, and there is power in meaningful decision making. So once you have gotten that voter's card, then now start thinking, what kind of a leader do I want to represent me?
And as we're entering the final leg of our conversation, so what should be the key takeaways, given that at the end of the day we have buried one great man called Raila Amolo Odinga? We have leaders who are set to even, let's not even go far, to 2027, upcoming by-elections that are in November. What leaders should we be looking out for in terms of, we're not saying they will take over the mantle of or the stature that Odinga was, but in terms of Kenyans, what should they be looking out for in our leaders in the coming even by-election and even the general election?
I think we have an opportunity, finally, to stop voting in people, because Kenyans, you know, are very prayerful. And after being very prayerful, they are also very, I don't know the right word to use for it, but you'd say maybe empathetic. So once they have eaten your money, so to speak, they'll say, anyway, tumekula pesa yake mingi, give him one term or give her one term, so that they can recuperate the finances that they've used, even though they are not impressed by the person's ability to lead them. I'm hoping that this is the time that we are going to go back to what happened the first time when former President Uhuru Kenyatta tried to come in, and people, the campaign slogan was Kula kwa Uhuru, but Kura elsewhere, you know, and people actually did that. So that they will look at people like issues. I'm glad that we can see and hear that we already have potential people who are going to come and present themselves in 2027, who speak to issues, who understand issues and can unpack them. I'm hoping that we will have the patience to listen to them and give them that opportunity, and not make it impossible for them by demanding that they must give us 3 sets of lesos and unga and etc. before we are going to go out and listen to them. If we can use this as the turning point for that, as Kenyans, I'm speaking to myself and to the people, if we can use this as that opportunity to now begin to look at substance going forward, we will have done this country great. And we will be able to move that agenda forward. Because if we show people that we are listening to issues, they will be forced to talk issues. Yes.
And perhaps given that now Alenga has some experience, he will be vying for that particular seat. Are we seeing that culture coming to an end? Because you're dealing with a very educated generation, courtesy of the education systems that were placed before by the previous regime, including the former president, that is Mwai Kibaki. So are we seeing that culture is going to end? We cannot expect you, Alenga, to stand before us without giving us, not giving us something at the end of the day.
They tell you unatuachaje.
Yes.
I think that behavior of the voters can only be stopped by ourselves. First of all, the leaders must present themselves with issues, because it's only when you don't have issues that you bring money first. But if you have issues, then you go with the message, you know. The voters also must demand a higher level of credibility from the people that present themselves for elections. And this can be achieved even through our communities, and through even collaborations with the universities. Nowadays we have universities almost in every county, or sometimes even in the smaller units, in the districts and all that. So these universities can partner with local organizations and promote debates where maybe, let's say, for instance, Kaimosi University in Vihiga County can invite all the people that want to contest for governor in Vihiga, Senate, MP, let them talk to the people, let them be asked questions, let them tell us what they are going to do on health. What plan do they have for education? What plan do they have for the development of the area? What are they going to do about water and sanitation? You know, so that they tell us these things before we make a decision on who among the three or who among the six actually has an agenda. Because we do not listen to we do not preempt what these people have, that is why we end up with square pegs in round holes when now we go for the election. So if these institutions can partner with the local organizations to improve the level of debate, remember societies like the Greek society was highly improved in terms of its economy, its politics, its philosophy and education through debate. In the olden Greek society, people would be called to the auditorium to speak about finance, to speak about saving, to speak about leadership, to speak about politics, to speak about governance. And those kind of public debates are the ones that raised the Platos of the day, the Aristotles, and all the other panoply of leaders who rose through that Greek system of deeply listening to people to know what content do they have. So today, you do not just present yourself because I was working, I don't know where, I was a doctor for 20 years, I was an engineer, I was what, now I want to be a governor. Let's first of all unpack these people, you know, see what exactly they have. Before they come to embarrass us in Nairobi, we'll have told them deep down in Vihiga, no, you don't deserve it.
Okay. Let me accord you now at least 1 minute each to say your final remarks. Let me start with you, Millie.
We must, as the 7 days of mourning come to an end, thank Amolo Odinga for living true to the course that God had given him on this earth, for trying his level best. And may his soul rest in peace. And may that spirit that he had of unity, of discussion, and of interest of the people being the central issue in our agenda, in politics and in public life, may it live on for years and years to come.
Indeed. Alenga?
Me too, in the spirit of mourning the late Raila Amolo Odinga, I want to be very brief. There's a French poet, Bihago Diop, who wrote a poem that says, he said in French, les morts ne sont pas morts, les morts ne sont pas qui partis. Like, the dead are not dead. Those who have died amongst us have not departed from us. So his memory lives within us.
Thank you so much. Of course, for those people who don't understand French, at least he explained to us its meaning. Thank you so much. That is Alenga Trustat, a policy advisor, Millie Luanga, lawyer and governance expert. Thank you for making time for us for the better part of this morning. That concludes our program this morning, but we are keeping a very close eye at State House Nairobi, given that President William Ruto any moment from now will be coming your way live there, given that he is currently held up in a meeting with the Senegal president for a state visit, that is Bassirou Diomaye. And early in the morning, the president had the opportunity to host the Prime Minister of Mozambique, that is Maria Ben-Vida Levy, at State House Nairobi. Also, other key events that are happening across the country, including the Correctional Service Week 2025 that has started with the chief guest, that is CS Defense Soipan Tuya, gracing the event. And also here closer to where the broadcasting house is, Parliament especially, will be vetting, the committee, the Labour Committee will be vetting, that is Engineer Michael Thioya Kingi, a nominee for the appointment as a member of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC. Don't go too far. Kurunzi Mashinani will be up next with all those details as and when we get them. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Lensa Odingo. Good morning for now.
Do you want your partner to track your every move? Is that a safety measure or creepy? Installing spyware on a partner's smartphone is becoming a thing in relationships worldwide. We'll explain when that's a problem and how to protect yourself. And have you ever said thank you to your voice assistant? Treated the algorithm like a person? Kids believe assistants like Siri or Alexa feel and think like humans, according to a new study. Let's talk about why that matters. Also on the show, deepfakes are getting better and better. Yet there is no bulletproof way to identify them. Now, social media company Meta is announcing new measures, but will they work? Coming up, the topics that are moving the tech world. Living in an abusive relationship, that's a sad reality for many people, especially women worldwide. And abusive partners are increasingly using spyware on smartphones to control their love interests. So how do these apps work? How can you protect yourself? Before we dive in, let's take a look at some figures. Cybersecurity company Kaspersky conducted a survey on digital stalking in relationships. 24% of the participants say they have been stalked by a partner with the help of technology. Half of them through smartphone apps. And nearly 1 in 10 participants admitted to installing tracking apps on their partner's phone. In short, digital abuse in relationships is a massive problem. So-called stalkerware seems to be a key enabler. Now, how does stalkerware work? Most spyware apps are marketed as a tool for parents to keep track of their kids, or as a monitoring app for work phones. However, they're easily misused by people to spy on their partners. Using trackers without someone's knowledge is clearly unethical. Marketing stalkerware as parental apps or anti-theft tools means there is no discussion about those apps being in the App Store. Stalkerware helps access almost everything on someone else's device. Messages, calls, contacts, pictures and location. This app can even notify someone when the phone's owner leaves a specific area. Many apps can also access the phone's microphone or camera at any given time. To install them, the abuser needs physical access to the victim's phone. Once installed, these apps do a pretty good job of hiding themselves. They don't send out any alerts or notifications. There is no app icon. Stalkerware is often disguised as harmless system apps. So, how can we spot stalkerware? Here are 3 red flags to watch out for. 1. Keep an eye out for unusually high battery and data usage. Stalkerware apps run in the background, consuming battery and sending data to the abuser. 2. Watch out for unusual actions on the smartphone, such as random GPS activations or slow performance. 3. If you notice echoes or strange noises during calls, that could be a sign that someone is listening in. And in general, trust your instincts. A common sign that you're being monitored could be a change in the abuser's behavior. They may know too much about your activities without any other explanation. It can also be helpful to keep a journal of what you're experiencing. This makes it easier to detect patterns of abuse. Now, how to protect yourself against stalkerware? In general, be aware that those apps exist. Protect your smartphone with a password and don't let it fall into the hands of others. Remember, abusers need physical access to install spyware apps. If you suspect that your device has been compromised, change the passwords for all of your accounts. A short-term solution might be to activate airplane mode to stop the data from being sent. Look through your installed apps in the settings to see if you find anything unusual, or check which apps can access your location, microphone or camera. If none of that helps, reset your phone to default settings. But keep in mind that the abuser will notice if you delete the spyware app and might escalate their behavior. So you may want to keep the app at first and think about an alternative device that you could use to get help. If you're feeling unsafe in your relationship, visit this website to find out where to turn to. Stay safe.
أنا محترف منذ 22 عاماً.
Soccer star Cristiano Ronaldo speaking perfect Arabic. That's fake. AI-powered image generators are rapidly improving. Therefore, very convincing deepfakes are more and more common on social media. That makes it very hard for us to distinguish real from fake. And that's a huge problem worldwide, especially when it comes to elections. Now, Meta has announced it will label AI-generated content starting in May. How is that supposed to work? And will this save us from being lied to? Let's take a look. Deceivingly real. Fact is, a lot of the time generative AI is already good enough to deceive our eyes. And with new tools, AI-generated content will get better very quickly. Already a lot of AI content is shared on social media. So far, the platforms have not taken significant steps to detect AI fakes. Now, Meta has announced they will label AI-generated content on Facebook, Instagram, Threads. This will include images, videos, and sound. Labeling AI, how does that work? Meta makes detecting AI sound pretty easy. We will begin labeling content as made with AI when we detect industry-standard AI image indicators. In theory, it could work like this. Generative AI developers add watermarks to content generated with their models. That means whenever a user creates something using these engines, there is a watermark in the file's metadata. When users upload content, special algorithms can check for these watermarks and label the final post as made with AI. Seems pretty straightforward. Other companies like Google have been experimenting with this method as well. But there's more than one catch. All content would need to be scanned and all watermarks found. What's more, not all AI engines use watermarks, and these watermarks are very easy to remove. So if you want to share misleading images, basic digital tools are enough to circumvent Meta scans.
Tunatambulika kwa mandhari yetu ya kuvutia,
tamaduni zetu, ukarimu wetu, vyakula vyetu, uchapakazi,
na pia kwa sauti tofauti za watangazaji wetu waliobobea.
Libengo liko hapa aka upcoming sponsor. Bila shaka hapa ni kama Pedeshe, ma Deep State, pia vile Cartels.
Tunaenzi talanta za pwani, tunakuza talanta za hapa kwetu nyumbani.
Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tuko mjengoni kama kawa na wanangu wengine wawili.
Usikose kutegea 103.1 Pwani FM, stesheni ambayo itakupa fursa ya kupata uhondo kamili wa pwani na kuleta Wakenya pamoja.
Pwani FM, tafrija kipwani.
We shine light on one of the most under-discussed and very urgent issues, especially in women's health. This is maternal mortality. Why are women still dying from preventable causes during pregnancy and childbirth?
The solutions that we create for women must start with the women themselves. It is the wearer of the shoe who knows where it pinches most.
One of the key causes of maternal mortality is obstetric hemorrhage, bleeding.
And I think the leadership of this country needs to wake up and really focus on what is killing women. And they can only do that by listening.
If only would put in money, if only would invest strengthening our supply chain, would ensure that our governance is airtight, then this country will not be able to speak about maternal mortality very quickly in the near future.
Hujambo mtazamaji, natumai ubuheri wa afya popote pale ulipo hivi leo, ikiwa ni siku ya Jumanne tarehe 21 mwezi Oktoba mwaka 2025, ikielekea saa 6 kamili saa za Afrika Mashariki. KBC Channel 1 tumekuandalia taarifa kutoka maeneo mbalimbali katika kipindi chetu cha Kurunzi Mashinani. Mie wako Sheila Kayaro Yogo na mfasiri wetu wa lugha ya ishara ni Carol Njoroge. Karibu. Serikali inapania wanania kufungua ofisi ya utoaji pasipoti katika mji wa Malindi mwaka ujao ili kurahisisha upatikanaji wa hati hiyo kwa wakazi wa Pwani Kaskazini. Haya yalifichuliwa na naibu kamishna wa kaunti ya Malindi David Lusava, ambaye amesema kuwa uamuzi huo unalenga kuboresha huduma hiyo hasa kwa vijana wanaotafuta ajira nje ya nchi na ambao hulazimika kusafiri hadi mjini Mombasa kupata pasipoti.
From early next year hatutaweza kuwa tukienda Mombasa ama Nairobi, passports zitakuwa zinachukuliwa hapa. Si hilo ni jambo, si ni maendeleo? Kwa sababu watoto wetu, kuna wakati tumefanya ajira za kwenda kufanya kazi Uarabuni, kuna wale wenye walikuwa na shida ya kupata hizi passport. So ofisi ikiletwa hapa itaweza kutusaidia.
Na mtazamaji, hivi sasa tuelekee katika eneo ambapo kuna sherehe ya wafungwa ambayo inafanyika kwa sasa. Hebu tupate mbashara.
Contribute to a society where all people can live in dignity, safety and opportunity. There is fairness, peace and to the lives of progress and harmony. Efficiency in correctional service demands that every decision made, every action taken, and every resource deployed advances restoration of human beings, safeguards society, and engenders rehabilitation of offenders. As the scholar Howard Zehar, pioneer restorative justice, observed, and I quote, "Restorative justice invites us to see crime not as a violation."
Na mtazamaji, tutakuwa tunakuletea tena mbashara makala hayo ama matukio hayo yanayofanyika ya sherehe ya wafungwa hapo baadaye, lakini hebu tuendelee, ambapo gavana wa kaunti ya Pokot Magharibi Simon Kachapin ameelezea wasiwasi kuhusiana na ongezeko la uvamizi wa misitu katika kaunti hiyo, katika hatua za haraka zichukuliwe kuwazuia wakazi kukata miti kiholela. Gavana Kachapin amesema juhudi zinazowekwa na serikali za kupanda miti zaidi zinahujumiwa na shughuli zisizodhibitiwa katika misitu. Amesema atatenga rasilimali kuhakikisha misitu katika kaunti hiyo inalindwa dhidi ya uharibifu zaidi.
Tunapanda miti kila mwezi, but sustainability ya hiyo forest iko wapi? Isipokuwa yale iko mashule kama hii. Lakini tunapanda hapa kama tira, tunapanda huko Leland, baada ya hiyo mbuzi inakula. Tutashirikiana pamoja karibuni na watu ya Kenya Forest Service na wengine kuona wale wameingilia kama tira mtelo, tutashirikiana kuondoa hao.
Na juhudi za kujumuisha zana za kidijitali na uvumbuzi kwenye utekelezaji wa mfumo wa elimu ya umilisi zimeshika kasi. Hafla iliyoandaliwa kwenye taasisi ya ustawishaji Mtalaa jijini Nairobi ilidhamiriwa kuangazia jinsi mafunzo ya uundaji roboti na ubunifu wa programu za kidijitali yalivyoibuka kuwa nguzo muhimu ya mfumo huo mpya wa elimu. Lengo ni kuwapa wanafunzi ujuzi wa karne ya 21 na kutathmini uwezo wao wa kuimarisha elimu ya kidijitali kama msingi wa fursa za kimaisha, utangamano wa kijamii na ufanisi wa jamii.
Kiini cha tuzo za Classwork Award ni mpango uliodhaminiwa na shirika la DIN kwa nia ya kutoa mafunzo kwa walimu na kuzipa shule ujuzi wa kidijitali. Ni ishara ya madarasa ya humu nchini katika siku zijazo, ambapo wanafunzi kuanzia shule za msingi wataweza kubuni suluhu za kiroboti kwa changamoto za kila siku zinazokumba jamii.
So you can see how it is working.
Hapa si mashindano tu, ila pia ni mabadiliko ya kimsingi kwenye mfumo wa elimu.
Learning to code, building a prototype and seeing your idea come to life is truly exciting. That spirit is a driving force behind the Classwork TechWest program. Our objective was clear. We asked you to use robotics, coding, and artificial intelligence skills to solve a real, tangible problem in your communities. That was the challenge.
Katibu mkuu wa shirika la DIN nchini Kenya, Christopher Barasa, amesema mafunzo ya uundaji roboti hutekeleza jukumu muhimu kwenye mpito kutoka mfumo wa elimu wa 844 hadi ule wa umilisi CBE, ambapo elimu inategemea zaidi vitendo kuambatana na mitindo ya ulimwengu.
At the DIN organization, our mission is to unleash every learner's potential. This mission aligns seamlessly with the vision or the mission of competency-based education, whose mission is to nurture every learner's potential.
Mpango huo unapigwa jeki na taasisi ya ustawishaji mtaala.
Together, through collaboration between DIN and KICD, we are nurturing a generation of digitally literate, innovative, and responsible citizens, ready to thrive in rapidly changing world.
Tayari shirika la DIN lenye makao yake makuu nchini Uholanzi limezindua mpango huo kwenye shule 500 huku nchini na linalenga kushirikisha shule zaidi katika siku zijazo.
Our project is designed to scale and reach many more schools next year. We intend to do this through 2 phases. The first one is through teacher training workshops to equip teachers with foundational technology skills. And the second is through class and club simulation sessions where we follow up to see the practical skills applied in a real lesson setup.
Wanafunzi wa shule 11 walitathminiwa kuhusu jinsi ya kung'amua na kusuluhisha changamoto zinazokumba jamii, kuanzia uhaba wa maji hadi usafi.
It helps us to save water because the water that is drained out from the kitchen, it can cause pollution.
Haja ya ujumuishaji pia ulizingatiwa.
Special needs kids who cannot, probably they have limb issues or sight issues or hearing issues, can still interact with our gadgets and be part of the learning process. So that is very heavy on us. We care about it. We even have our trainers being trained on the same. We have even hired trainers that have done special needs education. It is something we care about.
We're living in an age whereby we're having interactive devices, whereby whether you're blind, whether you're deaf, we're having devices coming up with sort of interactive yet functional things.
Wadau walitoa wito kwa serikali kuunga mkono mpango huo ili kufanikisha mfumo wa elimu ya umilisi.
We have to nurture our kids, right? Tap into their creative areas, whether it's games, whether it's doing something to do with electricity. Try to get that into robotics, right? First, get that sort of intuition from the kids, then you have the move along. In terms of the materials, it's quite expensive to have these devices. We do understand that, but with the help of such organizations like DIN or our government can come in place and get us some of these robotics materials that can be very important.
Wanafunzi walio chini ya mpango huo wamesifia manufaa yake.
DIN is a good organization because as well as when they came to our school, we got new robots which helped us develop skills such as critical thinking, creative thinking, and teamwork.
Even though that this is my first time competing in a competition like this, I've learned so much. I've met new people, and I feel like DIN has helped me grow to become more tech literate.
Wanasema masomo ya vitendo ni rahisi kuelewa na yanawatia msukumo.
All you have to do is be a risk taker. Even if you have stage fright, my first speech, my first interaction with speaking in front of people, I was nervous. Plus, interacting with such kind of events allows you to build your confidence, reduce the stage frights, reduce the anxiety, and build your confidence.
Muundo huu ni bayana. Kupitia ubunifu, ustawishaji na uundaji, wanafunzi wanakuza uwezo wao wa kutafakari mambo kwa umakinifu mbali na ushirikiano na wenzao. unafanya masomo ya sayansi, teknolojia, uhandisi na hisabati kuwa ya kuvutia, huku yakigusia moja kwa moja utafutaji wa suluhu kwa changamoto zinazosibu jamii. Nikiripotia KBC Channel 1, naitwa Aaron Marie.
Wakazi wa mji wa Kitengela na viunga vyake wanalalamikia kile wanachokitaja kuwa ongezeko la uuzaji na utumizi wa pombe haramu kwenye maeneo ya makazi. Wakazi hao wanasema biashara isiyodhibitiwa ya pombe haramu ikiwemo busaa, chang'aa na vile ugushi imekithiri kwenye mitaa ya Nonkipir na Chang'ombe. Wanawataka maafisa wa usalama kuchukua hatua kukomesha biashara hiyo laghai. Na mtazamaji, tuangalie jinsi taarifa hiyo inavyosimuliwa.
Jamii huko Kitengela inasema mamia ya wakazi, vijana kwa wazee, wanatumia muda wao mwingi kwenye vibanda vya uuzaji pombe haramu ambavyo hufunguliwa mchana na usiku, hali ambayo imebadilisha mitaa ambayo awali ilikuwa tulivu kuwa ngome za ulevi.
Watu wanakufa na pombe, vijana wetu wanakufa. Tunataka kuona vitendo kwa nyinyi, kwa sababu watoto wetu wanaumia, vijana wetu wanaumia. Na watu wakisema watu wanaumia, siasa nyingine inaletwa ya pesa kidogo.
Kamishna wa kaunti ya Kajiado James Taari tayari ametoa tahadhari kali kwa watayarishaji na wasambazaji wa pombe haramu, huku maafisa wa usalama wakiagizwa kuimarisha operesheni za kukomesha biashara hiyo haramu.
Kama unafanya kazi ya pombe na wewe sheria pombe, hata kazi ya pombe. Kama unauza hii pombe haramu, tunasema pombe haramu because which group pia hiyo si pombe ya sawa. Unless iko traditional brew ambayo umeomba ruhusa uweze kunywa wakati wa ceremony. Kama unauzia watu pombe hizi, hiyo ni makosa. Na hiyo ni kuvunja sheria. So I want to put your notice, itakuwa na wewe.
Kwingineko, vita dhidi ya pombe haramu katika kaunti ya Nandi vimeimarishwa, huku maafisa wa usalama wakianzisha hatua za kukabiliana na kero hilo kabla ya msimu wa sikukuu. Naibu kamishna wa eneo la Nandi ya Kati, Alfred Jilo, amesema operesheni na uangalizi zitaimarishwa ili kukabiliana na uraibu wa pombe haramu. Aliwatahadharisha wazee wa jamii dhidi ya kuhimiza unywaji pombe ya kitamaduni wakati wa sherehe za kuwatia wavulana jandoni, akiwataka badala yake kuhimiza maadili mema na nidhamu miongoni mwa vijana.
Kwa nini basi sisi tunabugia pombe, tunakunywa mpaka tunapindukia, hatujielewi? Tuko Kenya huru, tunaelewa. Uko na uhuru ya kukunywa kitu chochote unachopenda. Lakini pia tukumbuke kwamba kitu chochote unachofanya kupita kiasi, hata Biblia imesema ni dhambi.
Jilo alionya kwamba watakaovunja sheria kuhusu uuzaji wa pombe haramu watachukuliwa hatua kali. Jacqueline Masharia, Kurunzi Mashinani.
Na mtazamaji, hebu tupate mbashara ambapo waziri wa ulinzi Soipan Tuya anazungumza katika kongamano ambalo linashughulika na huduma za wafungwa na magereza.
You can sample a few of our officers just to celebrate the incredible service that they are offering to this country. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to say that I am here to represent my colleague, the Minister for Interior, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, who is engaged in a state function this morning. And as you all know that we have had a very rough week that we have been through. So we had to do a lot of reorganization, and I want to apologize for the late start of the program. It's because my colleague, together with PS Biako, saw it fit to harass me at a very late hour to be part of this program. But it was not hard to be harassed to come here, because right from when I did this last year, I really believe that this is the way to go. And I congratulate you again, PS, and your teams for this very noble thought of bringing to the fore the very critical service that we have in correctional activities for our inmates, and Kenyans who may need our support just beyond punitive measures for criminality. Across the world today, over 11 million people are in prison. Of these, more than 30% are awaiting trial, and 2/3 will return to society within 5 years. Yet, despite vast investments, recidivism rates remain high, sometimes exceeding 50%. These figures reflect a deeper reality that correctional management is not merely about containment, it is a complex, multifaceted continuum stretching from humane custodial care to meaningful reintegration into society. This is why the theme of this year's Correctional Service Week, which is efficient service delivery for the common good, is both timely and compelling. It reminds us of our collective responsibility as a nation and as a global community to synergize our efforts for the betterment of society. Ladies and gentlemen, correctional work is one of the most challenging yet noble professions of public service. It demands a rare combination of discipline, compassion, and moral courage. It also demands the courage to rethink outdated methods and to embrace evidence-based practices that deliver real human-centered outcomes. Across the world, a new correctional paradigm is emerging, one that is professional, humane, and reformative. The International Corrections and Prisons Association, ICPA, reminds us that such corrections are the foundation of safer, healthier, and more just societies. Countries like Norway, Canada, and Singapore are proving that when correctional facilities focus on education, rehabilitation, and reintegration, recidivism drops, public trust increases, and justice becomes restorative rather than purely retributive. Here in Kenya, we are steadily embracing this progressive shift. The State Department for Correctional Services is leading the way, championing a new culture built on rehabilitation, community service, and human dignity. We are witnessing steady progress through reintegration programs, vocational training, offender aftercare service, and digital innovations that strengthen case management and record systems. These efforts are the building blocks of a modern, efficient, and people-centered correctional service. And I am really happy to hear of the reforms that are centered on these aspects of correctional service, including ensuring that great prominence is given to probation and aftercare services department within the ministry. As Cabinet Secretary, both myself and on behalf of my colleague, I take immense pride in the men and women who serve in our correctional services. Each day, they undertake one of the most intricate tasks in public service, balancing security, rehabilitation, and social welfare, all under one roof. This work demands not just firmness, but deep empathy. Efficiency in corrections goes beyond infrastructure or statistics. It is about outcomes, reducing crime through rehabilitation, preventing reoffending through skills and education, and fostering cohesion through community reintegration. It is also about designing spaces that restore, not dehumanize. Studies by ICPA confirm that humane environments which are clean, well-designed, and psychologically supportive, lower tensions, reduce violence, and curb reoffending. Indeed, the architecture of our prisons can be the architecture of hope. That is why the government, through the Ministry of Interior and National Administration, is committed to modernizing correctional facility design, creating environments that promote learning, mental wellness, and vocational growth. The Kenya Kwanza administration, led by His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, continues to invest in our correctional personnel because efficient service delivery starts with a well-supported workforce. Correctional officers serve not just as custodians, but also as teachers, counselors, mentors, and peacekeepers, all in one. We will continue to prioritize staff welfare, professional development, and psychosocial support to safeguard the emotional and mental well-being of our officers. We are also proud of the culture of innovation witnessed within our service. It ranges from eco-farming projects in Naivasha, to digital education in Langata, and to community reintegration programs in Kajiado and Kahawa. The environmental conservation to combat climate change and the intention to have a green service are all to be celebrated. This spirit of kujituma, taking initiative and crafting local solutions is what defines a forward-looking, efficient corrections system. In this era of digital transformation, technology must be our enabler. We are working to establish digital infrastructure that will support real-time data sharing, streamlined case management, and enhanced accountability across our justice institutions. This is how we deliver efficiency for the common good, through transparency, coordination, and innovation. Distinguished guests, at its core, correctional work is a human enterprise by all standards. Every successful rehabilitation is a victory for society, a family restored, a community made safer, and life reclaimed. As we celebrate Correctional Service Week 2025, let us all reaffirm our belief in human potential. Let us all commit to systems that heal, educate, and empower. And let us all continue to rebuild a correctional future that is efficient, humane, and evidence-based. To all our correctional staff, servicemen and women, your work indeed does matter. Dedication upholds the rule of law, protects our communities, and gives hope.
Na mtazamaji, huyo ni Waziri wa Ulinzi Soipan Tuya akiweza kuzungumza katika kongamano la kushughulikia maslahi ya wafungwa, na ameweza kuzungumza akisema kwamba ama akiweza kudokeza kuwa takwimu zinadokeza kuwa watu wapatao milioni 11 ni wafungwa katika magereza kote nchini, na pia zaidi ya 30% wanasubiri kufunguliwa mashtaka, na thuluthi mbili baadhi yao wataweza kurejeshwa kwenye jamii. Na pia ameweza kuhimiza tu wenye jamii kuweza kuwakaribisha wafungwa hawa na pia kuwaweza kuelewa, na pia serikali imeweza kuanzisha mipango ambayo inaweza kuwasaidia kutekeleza mfumo ekolojia na pia ulinzi wa mazingira. Na mtazamaji, tutaendelea kukuletea taarifa hiyo kwa kina, na tukisonga mbele ni kwamba serikali inakadiria kuanzisha hazina ya kuweza kuwasaidia mashujaa wakongwe. Waziri wa jinsia na utamaduni Hana Cheptumo alisema serikali itashirikiana na washirika wa maendeleo kuhakikisha baraza la mashujaa linapata ufadhili wa kutosha ili kutekeleza majukumu yake ipasavyo. Tazama.
Akiongea wakati wa dhifa ya chakula cha jioni kwa heshima ya watu waliotuzwa wakati wa sherehe ya sikukuu ya mashujaa hapo jana, Cheptumo alisema serikali inanuia kuwasaidia mashujaa wakongwe kujikimu kimaisha.
We are looking at establishing a fund in the future for purposes of supporting those who have aged and those just to ensure sustainability, and we also cooperate with other partners. We cooperate with private partners to ensure that we have this process going on.
Cheptumo aliwahimiza waliotuzwa kurudufisha juhudi zao za kuleta mabadiliko chanya katika jamii.
Like today, if you see the number of heroes that we have gifted, there are many. And next year again, once we get the support from other partners, we will have until we ensure that every Kenyan becomes a hero.
Alisema serikali inadhamiria kuhakikisha baraza la mashujaa linatekeleza majukumu yake ipasavyo. Hali kadhalika aliwataka mashujaa waliotuzwa kuunga mkono ajenda ya serikali ya kupanda miche ya miti bilioni 15 kufikia mwaka 2032.
So these are some of the people that we identify so that they can run that particular agenda. Like today, we honored the PS for Treasury, who is not only doing his work in the Treasury, but has gone.
Na mtazamaji, tuelekee katika ikulu ya Nairobi ambapo kuna hafla ambapo rais wa Senegal yuko humu nchini, Bassirou Faye, ambaye yuko humu nchini kwa ziara rasmi. Tupate mbashara.
Cabinet Secretary for Interior to sign on behalf of Kenya, and His Excellency Mr. Sheikh Nyang to the Minister of African Integration, Foreign Affairs. You may take your seats, sirs. The first agreement is between the government of Kenya and the Republic and government of the Republic of Senegal. This agreement is for the reciprocal exemption of visas for citizens of the Republic of Senegal and the Republic of Kenya, for holders of diplomatic, service, official, or ordinary passports who travel to the two territories of the other party for a period not exceeding 90 days. Again, this agreement provides for the reciprocal exemption of visas for citizens of the Republic of Senegal and the Republic of Kenya for holders of diplomatic, service, official, or ordinary passports who travel to the territory of the other party for a period not exceeding 90 days. After the signing, we can put our hands together. You may stand up for a photo opportunity as you shake hands and exchange. For the first photo, a clap. Then if you may hold the documents each individually facing the cameras. For that photo opportunity. Thank you. I'll request that Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen take back his seat where he was before, but we will leave Sheikh Nyang to take his seat. Kindly just remain for the next agreement. And this is a joint communique. And allow me to invite the Prime Cabinet Secretary to take his position for the signing of the joint communique. The joint communique on the occasion of an official visit to the Republic of Kenya by His Excellency Bassirou Faye, President of the Republic of Senegal, which is being signed by His Excellency Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary for the Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs on behalf of the Republic of Kenya, and His Excellency Mr. Sheikh Nyang, Minister of African Integration, Foreign Affairs, and Senegalese abroad on behalf of the Republic of Senegal. After the signatures, we'll kindly request that you may stand up and shake hands for a photo opportunity as we clap for them. Then you can each hold the document individually facing forward for the cameras. There you go. Thank you. And with that, we are done with the agreements. We'll now invite His Excellency, the President of Kenya, and His Excellency, the President of Senegal, to make a joint press statement. Welcome, Your Excellencies.
Your Excellency, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, President of the Republic of Senegal, Honorable Ministers and Cabinet Secretaries, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, distinguished officials, ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply honored to welcome you, my dear brother and friend, Excellency Bassirou Diomaye Faye, the President of Senegal, to Kenya. And thank you for accepting my invitation to be our chief guest on our Mashujaa Day celebrations yesterday, a day we celebrate Kenyan heroes who have made contributions in many aspects, especially towards the independence of our country, and those who continue heroic actions every day in our country. As we honor Kenya heroes and heroines, your presence gave the occasion deeper meaning. Mashujaa Day reminds us of our forefathers who fought for our freedom and the many who continue to serve and build our nation every day. This visit, Your Excellency, reflects our shared commitment to strengthening the friendship between Kenya and Senegal. It also offers us the opportunity to deepen our friendship, enhance mutual understanding, path of cooperation. During our deliberations, His Excellency President Faye and I reviewed a broad range of bilateral, regional, and continental matters. We reaffirmed our joint commitment to closer collaboration in trade, peace and security, energy, sports, and multilateral affairs. Our collaboration in these sectors aims to not only enhance prosperity, but also to promote sustainable development between our two nations. We are also united in the determination to capitalize on these synergies for the mutual benefit of our citizens and the continued advancement of our bilateral relations. We recognize the foundations that already exist between our two nations and are pleased to announce the conclusion of a new visa waiver arrangement that will allow citizens of both countries visa-free travel for up to 90 days. This important milestone will foster stronger people-to-people ties and boost tourism, trade, and collaboration. In a bid to deepen our bilateral ties, the Joint Commission for Cooperation remains a vital platform for monitoring and expanding our bilateral agreements. Kenya is ready to host the inaugural session of the Joint Cooperation Commission in the second half of the year 2026 through the JCC. We will strengthen cooperation in several sectors that are mutually beneficial for our two nations. In particular, we will engage and seek to conclude new instruments that will expand our bilateral cooperation. On trade and economic cooperation, we noted that trade volumes between Kenya and Senegal remains very low. To address this, we commit to working together to remove barriers, enhance transport and digital infrastructure while harmonizing standards and promoting business-to-business engagement. We affirm our commitment to the goals of Agenda 2063 and the implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, a transformative framework that will drive industrialization, trade, and economic integration across our continent. As Kenya prepares to co-host the AFCON 2027, we welcome Senegal's support and experience in hosting and excelling in continental football tournaments. We look forward to learning from Senegal's expertise in infrastructure development, event management, and building lasting sports legacies. We commit to to exploring joint initiatives such as exchange programs for coaches and athletes, co-hosting regional tournaments, and establishing joint training camps. By combining Kenya's strength in athletics and Senegal's prowess in football, we aim to uplift our young people and enhance cultural diplomacy. We also substantively discussed peace and security issues, during which His Excellency President Faye and I emphasize their crucial importance as foundation for socio-economic progress in our region, understanding very well that a region that is not stable, that is not peaceful, that has no security, cannot attract investment, cannot foster trade, and cannot enhance entrepreneurship. We expressed appreciation for the ongoing initiatives aimed at strengthening peace and security in our region, and I also did inform His Excellency the President on the AU reform agenda that currently is being spearheaded by Kenya. And I did ask for his support as we present a report on the AU reform, especially on the Peace Fund, on matters to do with the African Court of Justice, and also on matters to do with the reform of the AUC itself. And finally, we did agree with His Excellency the President to reaffirm our collective commitment to multilateralism and agree to work together to ensure that we have a multilateral agenda to ensure that the UN has fair representation and is effective in addressing global challenges by streamlining operations, modernizing structures, and making it fit for purpose. In conclusion, I thank you, my dear brother, President Faye, for honoring our invitation and working with us in this journey of African solidarity and transformation. Kenya remains strong and unwavering partner, as well as a committed friend of Senegal. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Allow me to renew my thanks for your invitation, your warm welcome, and your hospitality. Hospitality to myself and to the whole of my delegation in your beautiful country. I should also like to renew my expression of condolences following the transition of former Prime Minister, Mr. Raila Odinga. I would like to congratulate you for the perfect organization of Masuja Day, the Day of Kenyan Heroes. Allow me also to say that this visit of mine was an opportunity to express Senegal's friendship to Kenya, my personal friendship for you, and tell you how committed and determined I am to continue the good cooperation and friendship relations between our two brotherly countries. I would like to take this opportunity to commend your leadership and your efforts for the development and consolidation of peace in Kenya and across the sub-region. Our relations are built on a shared vision of peace, stability, and good governance, as well as African integration. Obviously, bilateral cooperation, in particular, economic and trade investment, are not reflecting the existing potential, and I remain convinced that we can do much more and we can definitely do better. In many sectors, as we have discussed it earlier, in particular agriculture, where efforts are being made with a Kenyan company that has started operating in Senegal in the area of irrigation and low-cost agricultural equipment and other areas such as technology, digitization, as we also discussed earlier, transport, and so many other sectors. As you rightly recalled, we have agreed to work to organizing the Joint Cooperation Commission, which I hope will help explore concrete areas of partnership that needs to be built or innovated. We have noted perfect agreement and alignment of views on the challenges facing the continent. I am aware of your commitment in peace efforts in the sub-region, and I would like to congratulate you for that and encourage you to continue on that dynamics by promising that you will always be able to count on my personal commitment and Senegal's full support for the success in these initiatives of peace and security in the region. Senegal is willing to work together with Kenya for better taking into account Africa's priorities at national, continental, and international levels. Allow me to conclude, Mr. President, by thanking you once again for the honor bestowed on me and invite you to visit Senegal and tell you that the people of Senegal would be delighted to host you in the tradition of Senegalese hospitality, teranga, which is our tradition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And that brings us to the end of the joint press statement. We'll allow So I'll request that we progress to the lunch area. As soon as we are settled, we'll have the two heads of state join us. So if we can quickly progress to the lunch area, we'll be guided where.
Na mtazamaji.
Na mtazamaji, tumekuwa tukipata matukio mbashara kutoka ikulu ya Nairobi, ambapo kumekuwapo na ujumbe kutoka nchi ya Senegal wakiongozwa na Rais Bassirou Diomaye Faye ambaye yumo humu nchini kwa ziara rasmi ya serikali ama ziara rasmi ya kikazi, na pia Rais William Ruto waliweza kukutana na wakaweza kuzungumzia masuala mbalimbali na pia kuweza kutia sahihi mawasiliano ya pamoja na mikataba ya pamoja, na mojawapo ya mambo ambayo yameweza kuangaziwa ni ondoleo la visa kwa wakazi wa Kenya na Senegal ambao watakuwa wanazuru mataifa hayo na kuishi nchini humo kwa muda usiozidi ama kuzuru mataifa hayo kwa muda usiozidi miezi mitatu ama siku 60, na pia wameweza kuzungumzia kuweza kuimarisha kwa pamoja utalii na pia ushirikiano wa sekta mbalimbali ikiwemo ushirikiano wa kibiashara. Na pia Rais Bassirou Faye ameweza kusema kuwa kuna kampuni ya Kenya ambao kwa sasa inaendeleza shughuli zake za kilimo nchini Senegal, na pia kutakuweko pia na mabadilishano ya mafunzo ya soka ambapo kutakuwa na mafunzo au makocha ambao watakuwa wanatembea humu nchini ama kuja hapa nchini na wengine kwenda Senegal, pamoja na wachezaji kuweza kupata mafunzo pale na pia kuweza kuiga viwango vya uchezaji wa soka nchini humo. Na pia wameweza pia kuzungumzia maswala ya amani ambapo mataifa haya mawili yataweza kushirikiana kwa nyanja ama sekta ya kuweza kuleta amani na pia kuimarisha usalama kati ya mataifa hayo mawili. Na mtazamaji, tutaendelea kukuletea taarifa kwa kina katika taarifa zetu ambazo zitakuwa zikijiri, na hivi sasa tuelekee kwa habari ambayo inazungumzia mashujaa ambapo serikali inakadiria kuanzisha hazina ya kuwasaidia mashujaa wakongwe. Waziri wa Jinsia na Utamaduni Hana Cheptumo alisema serikali itashirikiana na washirika wa maendeleo kuhakikisha baraza la mashujaa linapata ufadhili wa kutosha ili kutekeleza majukumu yake ipasavyo.
Akiongea wakati wa dhifa ya chakula cha jioni kwa heshima ya watu waliotuzwa wakati wa sherehe ya sikukuu ya mashujaa hapo jana, Cheptuma alisema serikali inanuia kuwasaidia mashujaa wakongwe kujikimu kimaisha.
We are looking at establishing a fund in the future for purposes of supporting those who have aged and those just to ensure sustainability. And we also cooperate with other partners. We cooperate with private partners to ensure that we have this process going on.
Cheptuma aliwahimiza waliotuzwa kurudufisha juhudi zao za kuleta mabadiliko chanya katika jamii.
Like today, if you see the number of heroes that we have gifted, there are many. And next year again, once we get the support from other partners, we will have until we ensure that every Kenyan becomes a hero.
Alisema serikali inadhamiria kuhakikisha baraza la mashujaa linatekeleza majukumu yake ipasavyo. Hali kadhalika aliwataka mashujaa waliotuzwa kuunga mkono ajenda ya serikali ya kupanda miche ya miti bilioni 15 kufikia mwaka 2032.
So these are some of the people that we identify so that they can run that particular agenda. Like today, we honored the PS for Treasury, who is not only doing his work in the Treasury, but has gone to the community to plant trees. And he has been able to get the people in the community to support him. And you can see recently we were even able to do in schools. These are the kind of programs that we do as a government, and we encourage the citizens who also get engaged. And once we identify those who are doing exceptionally well, we honor them as our heroes.
Naam, tukiangazia masuala ya Ifahamu China ni kwamba maonyesho ya 138 ya Canton yanayofanyika mjini Guangzhou kusini mwa China yamevutia umati mkubwa wa wageni na kizazi kipya cha wafanyabiashara. Wafanyabiashara waliozaliwa baada ya mwaka 2000 almaarufu Gen Z wanaleta teknolojia mpya, ubunifu na uelewa wa kimataifa katika uwanja wa biashara nje ya China. Tupate taarifa kamili katika makala kutoka Beijing ya Ifahamu China.
Miaka 70, maonyesho ya Canton yamekuwa tukio kubwa zaidi la biashara nchini China, lakini sasa yanapokea sura mpya. Vijana, kizazi kipya kilichozaliwa baada ya mwaka wa 2000 kinaleta mawazo mapya, ujuzi wa kidijitali na njia mpya ya mawasiliano ya kibiashara. Miongoni mwao ni Dorothy Jo mwenye umri wa miaka 25.
First, you have to know basic foreign trade terms like telegraphic transfer or letters of credit. It also helps to understand your client's customs and taboos. That builds trust. The key is sincerity. Don't sound too formal. Show your personality beyond just business talk.
Hata kama mauzo ya bidhaa za China kwenda Marekani yameshuka kwa 16% katika miezi 9 ya kwanza ya mwaka huu, mauzo ya jumla ya nje bado yanaendelea kukua, yakiongozwa na mashine, vifaa vya kielektroniki na bidhaa za nishati mbadala. Hali hiyo imefungua fursa kwa vijana kama Trent Wu mwenye umri wa miaka 22, mmoja wa wafanyakazi wachanga zaidi katika kampuni ya utengenezaji wa jenereta za umeme AGG Power Technology.
Before I graduated, I sent out CVs like crazy, more than 200 a day for a whole week. That's how I landed this job. Now I use Facebook, LinkedIn, and WhatsApp to connect with clients. For our generation in foreign trade, the biggest change is that we've got so many more tools to work with.
Mwaka huu zaidi ya 60% ya wanunuzi wanaohudhuria maonyesho ya Canton wanatoka katika nchi zinazoshiriki mpango wa ukanda mmoja na njia moja BRI, huku ushiriki kutoka Ulaya na Marekani ukiongezeka kwa mara nyingine tena. Maafisa wanasema uimara wa mauzo ya nje ya China unatokana na mnyororo wake kamili wa viwanda, ubunifu na uwezo wa kubadilika, ambapo kampuni nyingi sasa zinatengeneza bidhaa kulingana na mahitaji ya soko la kimataifa. Ubunifu wa vijana unabadilisha simulizi la biashara ya nje ya China. Sasa si tu kutengeneza bidhaa, bali kuzifanya ziwe za kisasa. Bidhaa za teknolojia ya juu sasa zinachangia zaidi ya 30% ya ukuaji wa mauzo ya nje.
It's a lot of robots for restoration because in France there's complicated to find good people for that now. It's really interesting to the guys is really young because for a long time follow is really good. We need the young people to make the future, so yeah.
Wajasiriamali wengi wa kizazi kipya wanakumbatia teknolojia mpya na wako tayari kushirikiana na chapa changa.
My parents' generation didn't have the internet, so they were only working with what they knew or what they saw in an expo, but the expedition back then wasn't really the same. Now you can see a lot of different things, you can see the future, and it's more easy to contact and ship things back to Europe.
Naam, mtazamaji, kipindi chetu cha Kurunzi Mashinani kimekomea hapo kwa sasa, lakini tutakuwa tunaungana nawe mwendo wa saa 10 kamili, Mola akiridhia, kwa awamu ya pili ya kipindi hiki chetu cha Kurunzi Mashinani. Na pia kuna matukio mbalimbali ambayo yanaendelea humu nchini, ikiwemo kongamano la maslahi ya kuhusu wafungwa, na pia rais wa Senegal Bassirou Faye yuko humu nchini, ambapo wameweza pia kutia saini mikataba mbalimbali na pia mawasiliano ya pamoja na rais wa taifa hili William Ruto. Na pia Bassirou aliweza kutoa rambirambi zake kwa Wakenya kwa kumpoteza aliyekuwa waziri mkuu Raila Odinga. Mwenyezi Mungu ailaze roho yake mahali pema peponi. Naam, mtazamaji, mie wako Shila Kayaro Yogo, ambaye amekuwa akifasiri kipindi hiki kwa lugha ya ishara ni Carol Njoroge. Kwaheri.
Kappabashi is a district in downtown Tokyo under the gaze of the towering Sky Tree. It's famous for its many stores selling kitchen and cooking utensils. An 800-meter stretch of this road contains about 170 specialist stores. Dedicated cooks, whether professional or amateur, can find anything they need here. The most popular purchase is the Japanese kitchen knife, or hocho.
2 sentokus, which is the traditional knife in Japan, and the knives especially, I know that the craftsmanship is quite high.
This store has been in business for 100 years. It has an eye-catching display of knives, all forged by artisans using traditional techniques. Such finely edged knives are prized by Japanese chefs for precisely slicing and carving sashimi and vegetable dishes. This store has always taken great pride in the superior sharpness of its blades. These hocho are cut so well because they have such extremely thin edges. To achieve this, the shop's own artisans sharpen each blade with extreme care. A good knife is one that cuts cleanly, leaving an absolute minimum of irregularity on the surface of the food. This gives the best mouthfeel and the best taste. These shops sell everything the discerning chef needs. For example, to make the multi-layered Japanese omelette known as tamagoyaki. You'll need a specially shaped frying pan made from copper. We use copper because it conducts heat so well. This lets us quickly cook each layer of egg and roll it up without losing any moistness. That's what makes these omelettes so fluffy. You'll also need a dedicated item to make sushi rolls. Keen chefs use a bamboo rolling mat. The flexibility of the thin bamboo slats makes it easy to shape a perfect roll. A mat is essential when making thick futomaki sushi rolls. This is a tawashi, a traditional style of scrubbing brush. It's made from plant fibre. The flexible fibres thoroughly clean away even the smallest particles. With a tawashi, you don't need detergent, just water is fine. They'll clean vegetables without scraping or bruising, preserving all the flavour. Making children's meals can be a burden for busy parents, especially if both are working. New kitchen gadgets are now making their lives easier. This knife manufacturer is leveraging its blade-making expertise to develop new kitchen products. We design for those who want to make meals quickly, but who are also keen on cooking skillfully. This product makes slicing salad easier. And here's a better vegetable peeler. They designed this small cutter for delicate carving. Now it's easy to get creative and add decorative touches to box lunches. What we try to do is develop products to make cooking fun instead of a chore. If they can enjoy it, we hope people will be willing to put in a little extra time and make more interesting meals. The same ideal led them to also develop cooking utensils specially for children. Designed for small hands, these miniature knives cut just as sharply as their adult versions. Now children can take the same joy in cooking as their parents. Good kitchen utensils not only make cooking fun, they're an essential support for the nation's food culture.